We're live. Okay.
Hey.
All right, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. And Ms. Jean, who lived at one time in North Carolina, and that's where Rob lives right now. He lives in North Carolina. We have another guest right here that is also lived for many years in North Carolina.
And we may have a third North Carolinian joining us.
You're kidding. I'm the only one that's I'm the only one that doesn't belong here, right?
The one who lives literally across the street from you, yes.
Oh, he lives across the street, and Jean lives across the street from me.
Well, not quite in Greensboro, but yes. Close.
She literally lives across the street from me. So that's like amazing. So, okay. Jean, if you want to turn on your microphone, if you don't want us to see you, that's fine. I don't want to be seen most of the time. So I don't even say hello to the neighbors a lot. It's because I look awful. I look absolutely awful. Unless I look perfect, it's like I'll leave them gifts, but I won't show my face. So if you want to turn on your microphone, you can turn that on, and don't turn on the camera. That way we can hear you if you don't want to be seen. That's perfectly fine. I know exactly how you feel. So hello there, Three Stooges. Hi, y'all. What's up? Yeah, we're actually, it's actually not my fault this time that we're late. We were waiting for Rob here, had to get his costume on, right? You were looking for stuff, right? So this time it's not my fault.
Let me plead on my behalf, okay?
Okay.
When you have
Pop-Tarts.
What's that?
Pop-Tarts?
We will get to that. Okay. I'm a strong partisan for Pop-Tarts. But yeah, so when you have an obscene amount of clothes, it's almost a sin not to try to theme what you wear with the topic of discussion. So I was like, what's Elvis-y? So I had like the white t-shirt and I had this leather jacket. And then I realized I actually don't look like Elvis. I look like a member of a third-tier hair metal act from like 1987.
Yeah, it's more 80s. And Elvis, he had the look in his 68 comeback special. He had the look of having nothing on under his black leather jacket and his black leather pants.
Yeah.
That's the look that they were trying to portray, is that he just had that jacket on over a bare chest. Tick-tock, tick-tock. What does that remind us of? Who might have taken that and gone very far with it and become very, very famous in his own right? You know, and because not very many people can pull it off, because we can't say anything negative about.
Are you talking about the second most famous Vermonter?
Yeah, I thought he was the first famous.
Well, Bernie Sanders.
Bernie was second or third. Yeah. I mean, which one would you rather look at? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Of the two, that's right. It was Elvis's look, and Elvis had the leather pants, and of course, it does take someone who can wear that kind of stuff to be able to wear and pull it off. I mean, I couldn't do it. Why am I gold looking?
Because you're gold, baby.
Is that it?
As your producer, I have to say things like that. You're gold, baby.
How do I make the screen bigger? Because there's Three Stooges, more like Fonzie. Who's like Fonzie?
Please talk about me.
Can you see us, Three Stooges?
Yes, I looked at the stream. It's going fine.
It's going okay. And Jean hasn't. Jean's device is not connected, so she can pop in whenever she feels comfortable. And let's see. Well, right now, the night that Elvis died, Elvis had a very busy night the night he died. And he was trying to keep himself in shape. He played racket. First, he went to the dentist because he was going to be performing the next day. The very next day, he had a performance. and he needed a cavity filled. He always wanted his teeth perfect for the audience. So he went to the dentist at night, and that's the only time he could go because he was Elvis. He couldn't really go any places during the day. He would have to buy out amusement parks, and then everybody who worked for him and friends and family, he would invite all of them and pay for them. But if he went to an amusement park when it was full with people, everybody would come off their rides and nobody would have any fun, and nobody would be able to get through. So even when he went to theaters, he would have to buy out the entire theater and then invite his friends and his family to go there. So when he went to the dentist, he had to go at night. So he went at night to get his teeth fixed. And then he went with his friend Larry Gaylor and his girlfriend to play racquetball. And they were playing really hard racquetball till the early morning hours. And you wouldn't think Elvis, we saw him declining and he was all bloated because of, I keep looking through everywhere. How many meds did they prescribe for him? He may not have taken all these at once, but maybe throughout his history, he had been prescribed 199 drugs. And what happened was doctors used to just prescribe, different doctors used to prescribe drugs to him. That way, they'd have him as a client, and they'd get him hooked and addicted. And Elvis was against drugs. That's the reason why Elvis went to I wonder if there's a picture of Elvis and Nixon that is in here. That's why he went to, and that's a very interesting story. Oh, who's he meeting there on the road again? Colonel meets Elvis and Vernon Presley. It looks like some kind of a religious person. Well, oh God, he looks handsome there. Just look at this picture of Elvis. Look at how handsome he looks. Absolutely handsome. Gorgeous. Anyway, this is a story of him going to see President Nixon. Now, Elvis would honor whoever the president was simply because they were the president of the United States. And before he left, he decided to go see the president because of all the hippies doing all the drugs. And Elvis was upset that all the hippies were doing all the drugs. And a lot of people were catching on to the Beatles. And they were doing a lot of drugs. So a lot of young kids started to do more drugs because the Beatles, anything the Beatles did, people would do. So he decided he wanted to be a federal agent. And so he said, we're going to go to Washington, D.C., and I'm going to go see the president. I'm going to ask him to get a badge for the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. And since he was going to go see the president, and where he went, he thought he would give him a present. He thought the right thing to do when you visit somebody was Elvis gave to everyone. Elvis gave cars. Elvis gave horses and cars. He didn't just give cars to everyone. He gave horses also, which is something I found out recently. And he knocked on doors himself looking at farm. He went out there to farms all over Tennessee looking for a golden palomino that was for sale because he always wanted a golden palomino. Well, anyway, he looked around and he found a gun that had been used. Who's here?
Oh.
Is that you?
Wait. Oh, sorry.
What?
No, I'm sorry. I started playing the video. I think some people are experiencing difficulty with the stream, so I was watching it in another window and trying to see. Yeah. So Three Stooges here is saying that the stream is not good, but I was just investigating that myself. Sorry about that.
Because everything looks good here. I don't see it.
He says it's stop and go.
It's stop and go.
And you were your sound was a little like clipping a little bit. It was weird, but I don't know if that's a serious problem.
Okay, because you sound really good.
Well, I mean, yeah, it sounds good enough from you. As I said, there was a little clipping sound. I don't know if it's worse for the people who are watching. But yeah, anyone want to say in the comments? Because I don't want to start off on this and not iron out our problems.
Yeah, that's true.
And we will. As I said, I have a friend who might be joining us soon. In fact, that's not him, but who might be joining us soon. So yes, but I'm sorry. Please continue.
Oh, that's all right. You can hear me though? Am I coming through? You're sounding fine to me. And I would think that if my stream were weak, I wouldn't be able to hear you either. It would start to, go sputter.
Yeah, I'm looking at the video. It looks fine. The video
looks fine. You sound fine. I don't see any stopping on my end.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else on either. I don't. My phone isn't on. I don't have anything that's
Okay, well. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Let's continue.
What at Three Stooges? How does it sound like now? Oh, to you. I had respect for Elvis for when he enlisted in the military. Don't like Johnny Law, where I'm from. I see. Yeah, he did. Elvis did whatever he was.
Yeah.
Basically, if he was told to do something, he did it by a superior. He did it. He followed orders. He was extremely polite. What's his face? Ed Sullivan said that he was of all the guests he's ever had on, he was the most polite and very respectful. It was a truly good boy, he called him. And he was raised very well, and he went to church every night. He went to revival meetings every night that would last for 2 or 3 hours, where under tents, where you would sing to the Holy Spirit and God all night long. And then, of course, they would go to church in the weekend all night long. It's good right now. Great. Thank you, Three Stooges. Okay, so we'll continue. That it's better now. So he was sincerely a very unusually good person. Of course, they said that when his parents didn't show up to church, Elvis would be there by himself. He always made sure he went to church if his parents were too sick to go to church. Now, the story Elvis going to see, I'll finish the story about Elvis going to visit President Nixon. Well, he had a framed gun that was used on D-Day by Patton, and it was worth a lot of money. And to Elvis, he said, what do I have that's the most valuable thing that I own that the president would appreciate, our country would appreciate? You can't get any more patriotic than that. So he said, I'm going to give this to the president. So Elvis put on his purple velvet suit and purple velvet cape and got on the Lisa Marie. That's the name of his airplane. And went to, he went on a commercial flight. He went on a commercial flight to get to Washington, D.C., but from Tennessee, and then he picked up another flight that was commercial. And he brought with him like 7 to 10 guns with him, and he laid them all on the counter. And they looked at them, and of course, anybody who has a gun, they would take the gun they would never let anybody with a gun on board. But they said, it's all right, Mr. Presley, you can keep your guns with you. They trusted him. And I'm thinking to myself, the day 9/11 happened. Robert Freed, hi there, Robert. Nice that you joined us. I'm thinking the day that 9/11 happened, if Elvis was on that plane and they let him have the guns, boom, 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 there would have been no crashing airplanes. he would have saved the day. I mean, we would have really seen Elvis in action, doing something for America, which is
that sounds like the next Quentin Tarantino movie, revisionist history.
That's right. It is. This sounds like a good idea, actually. So he knocked at the gates of the White House, and they said, we'll have to tell him that Elvis is outside waiting to come in. Of course, he had his sunglasses that were gold rimmed sunglasses and his purple velvet outfit with a purple velvet cape. And they said to President Nixon, Elvis Presley's here to see you, sir. And Nixon said, who's Elvis Presley? Oh, he's a very much admired, very famous singer from the 50s, and everybody loves him. Oh, sure. Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think that would be good for the publicity if I meet with this Presley fellow? Yes, I think it would be very good if you met with him. You could get some photo ops and maybe get a little warmth going with the public. All right, let him in. Okay. So Elvis came in to the Oval Office.
And endear himself to the youth somewhat, yes.
What's that?
And endear himself to the younger generation, hopefully.
Yeah, well, you know what happened with Watergate. But Elvis gave him the gun, and he said that he really cared about the youth and was really worried about the youth getting on drugs. On drugs, Rob, on drugs. The youth getting on drugs.
That's an inside joke.
And he was really worried about this. So he wanted to be a federal agent so he could stop the drugs from coming into the country, arrest whoever was selling the drugs to the youth, because he was going to destroy our youth, as you can see, Rob, that it has. To wit, what's happening in the streets. Drugs, Rob, drugs. Anyway, so he said, we can give him a badge. Go and give him a badge. So he came back, his attendant came back and brought the president the badge, and he handed it to Elvis. And Elvis did something right out of protocol, something you're not supposed to do. He hugged the president. Which is a very, very sweet, very humble thing to do. It's just a very loving thing. He was so honored that he was given this badge. And then the president said, well, we never let anyone who's visited the Oval Office let you depart without gifts. Let me hand you some gifts. And Elvis said, oh, could we have some gifts for my men and their sweethearts? Can't forget their sweethearts, their wives and sweethearts. It was, oh, okay, said Nixon. So he reached down to open the drawer to take the gifts out. And one side of the drawer, all the gifts, they're all wrapped. You couldn't tell by the wrapping what was in the gifts. One side, there was gifts of solid gold. And the other side were less expensive gifts. Elvis saw that was the drawer he opened. And Elvis went around and he put his hand in the bunch that was all solid gold. There's no way he could have known this, and he took them out. Oh, thank you, sir. He had no idea that these were solid gold. But somehow the guy who wrote a book about the whole experience, Elvis Meets the President, he said it would take the king to be able to find what gifts are solid gold and what gifts aren't solid gold. But that's a fun story. And that is the most requested photograph in the National Archives.
Is Nixon and Elvis.
Nixon and Elvis shaking hands with Elvis. Can you imagine? Imagine when Nixon thought that this man came in a purple velvet
Yeah.
suit with a purple velvet cape and these gold sunglasses with the
And then
this is the Presley fella. Hi there, G. Well. There's my favorite couple. See what G. Well says? There's my favorite couple.
He is, in the words of the French, incorrigibly.
Oh, you're boring Rob to sleep. Show him some skin.
You're incorrigible.
Oh, that's terrible. I've got all my jewels on. Yeah. I'm a pretty princess today. I've got my crown and I've got my jewels. And aren't you supposed to respect pretty princesses?
And I look like the bassist of the band that when Poison was touring in Milwaukee in 1987, their opening act couldn't make it. So I'm the bassist of the band.
Of the backup band.
Yeah.
Band, right?
Act, yeah.
Oh, God. Three of my fake diamonds came out at the top. I'm gonna have to glue them back in. I need a real crown. That's I expect that.
You're fitting our queen here.
I expect to be sent a real crown with real diamonds. See, if Elvis were around, he'd give me. See, that's the thing about Elvis is the reason why you saw him in the beginning. He didn't dress all sparkly with all the rings, with all the jewels set in the rings, and the studded outfits. It was more his clothes. Either his mother made them. That famous performance in Tupelo, when he went back to Tupelo, where they segregated the audience, which is very sad. But actually, something very good came out of Elvis and the audiences that were segregated. He was wearing a velvet shirt, a purple velvet shirt made by his mother, because that's his mother's favorite color was purple. Now,
as is yours.
What?
As is yours.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, that's yeah. When I was born, my favorite color was violet. I gravitated to actual violet color, the color of violets in spring, that kind of violet. And I was born in spring. I was born when those violets were coming up. I thought it's kind of interesting. I wouldn't know that. But getting off track here. But Tupelo. There was a story.
Purple velvet.
A lovely lady, and she's bringing up a very lovely girl. Wrong show.
You're talking about Purple Velvet.
Purple Velvet, but there was something before that. See,
Native's clothes.
About his clothes changing.
Yeah.
His clothes went to the whole rhinestone and flashy, and they were pretty flashy. And nobody dressed like Elvis, even in school. He did different things. You see, because Elvis lived in Shake Rag, which was the colored section of town. Now we used to not be able to say, remember we used to say, oh, you have to call them African American, not black. Now they're using the word black, so we can call them black. And the word colored was, you're not supposed to say of color, or that's bad. But now that's, if Ocasio-Cortez uses it, and I guess, but that in that time in Jim Crow South, it was segregated, and either you were on the side of the tracks that was pure white with not a drop of mixed blood, or you had mixed blood. And Elvis lived on that side of the track. He lived on the side of the track in Shake Rag, where everybody were basically minorities live, right? I'm still afraid. What word is the correct word? A little afraid. So I'm
guessing this was pre being signed to Columbia and becoming a big superstar.
Before he was at Sun Records, and then he got too big for Sun Records for distribution purposes, and that's when Colonel Tom Parker latched onto him for 50%, which is unheard of his earnings, which is sinful. Is actually sinful because 10% is the most any manager would take. And Elvis was supporting his entire family, and people that he lived with that were poor, where he came from, he gave jobs to. And he was supporting, he gave to every charity you can possibly imagine. He was at St. Jude's Children's Hospital every single night. When he was in Memphis, he was there every single night and would come through the doors like clockwork. And I only know this because when I went to get this book, Careless Love, Peter Gralnick was there speaking. And my original book was signed, which I think was either stolen or got caught in a flood, either one of the two. But a man stood up in the audience and he said that nobody knows this because Elvis never talked about it. He never talked about most of the things he did, good deeds that he did, and the gifts that he gave away and how much money he gave away. He just didn't do it. He said, my grandfather used to be the security guard at the St. Jude's Children's Hospital. And you know that St. Jude is how about this? I just happen to have, there's St. Jude. Look at there. I just happen to have St. Jude. This is really weird because somebody asked me to pray for them. And I said I would. And I said I was going to pray to St. Jude because it's to be said in cases despaired of, when you're despairing of something. And so when your child has cancer and cancer is incurable, especially in those days, you pray to St. Jude. And this another miracle video I'm going to make about what happened to the people next door and St. Jude, and it shocked them. It shocked me. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, so that just happened to be here because it was
everything's within arm's reach.
It's so strange because I took it and I typed it on the screen and I sent it to them for them to pray to St. Jude, because he's the best. He's a relative of Jesus. He was an apostle. You know, St. Jude, he was one of the apostles. And if anybody's got an in with Jesus, it would be St. Jude. And you know what's really interesting, digressing for a second about religion right here. They say that, well, Jesus, the whole thing was made up, and it was an anti-Semitic movement, and it was made up by the Romans, and that's why they called Judas. They gave him the word that's anti-Semitic. They're calling him a Jew, and he was the traitor, right? So no, you don't know about the other apostle Jude, who says right here. St. Jude, glorious apostle, faithful servant and friend of Jesus. The name of the traitor has caused you to be forgotten by many. He has got the same name as Judas. So here's a good Jude who was originally Jewish, and there's a bad Jude.
Yes.
That's totally a lie. That's as far as a piece of the puzzle to dismantle Christianity, you're wrong. You don't know anything.
Well, that's one version of mythicism, but they all have their own logical problems. Yes.
But yeah, it's like to use that. It was a whole anti-Semitic thing. That's why they made up a apostle named Jude. It's like that betrayed him. Well, there's one that didn't.
Yeah.
We're all praying to him. How about that? So Elvis would come through the doors every night, and he would ask the nuns, because the nuns would volunteer their work there. And he would ask them anything they needed. He would take care of them. They knew they were doing God's work, and they were doing it for nothing. And anything the children needed, or anything the hospital needed. And there was a big Black community in Memphis. And B.B. King had said once, Elvis, it was right that they made him the king of rock and roll. He said he did a lot for the Black community, and everything he did was on the hush hush.
Yeah.
So he didn't take it like this. We wouldn't know about unless that guy stood up in the audience when I was listening to this author speak. And nobody would know about things like that.
Yeah.
And I was looking at my rings. They're basically all fake. I think that's a real amethyst, but I think this is silver with gold plating, and those are not diamonds. They look nice, so I wear them. So I'm a pretend Elvis tonight. But if Elvis would, did you ever hear of Liberace?
Of course.
Okay. And Liberace loved his mother.
As gay men tend to do, yes.
Yeah. So Liberace, they performed together once. And Liberace, they exchanged jackets. And Elvis put on, and Liberace is always, I remember seeing him live, and he came, oh my God, it was amazing. He had this huge Startown Theater, round theater under a tent, and the stage was round, and there's a big white piano. And when he played it, the piano would turn in a circle and light up. When he came out, he had this big long cape that went all the way to the ground. And the whole thing has rhinestones all over it. He had rings on every finger. And then all of a sudden, his outfit lit up. Oh my God, what a show.
Over the top, yes.
That guy was such a showman. He actually wasn't a good piano player. If you listen to him, Mrs. Lana, no, he's not very good, but he was fun and funny. And that's the reason why everybody loved him and nobody cared. Just like people, we think that people care a lot about if you're gay or straight, and you realize that these actors who are clearly entertainers, I should say, and actors who are clearly gay, nobody really cared about. They just loved them and they loved what they do.
Yes,
that was the big thing. So anyway, Liberace told Elvis to really, because Elvis wanted to make his crowd happy. He wanted to make the people happy. And when he came out on stage, he really wanted to put on the best performance ever. And Liberace told him, what you got to do is you got to put on a show. You got to put on rhinestones. You got to be seen from far away. So lights hit those rhinestones and people see you and they get lifted up. And it makes them really happy. And wear jewelry. See how these jewels you can see from all over. And
a good portion of his audience is looking at him from a football field away. So you need to put on the show.
It gives you the presence of being a king. I was lucky in that respect that my parents did have us. My mother liked to see shows, and she loved Liberace. Carol Channing. We even saw Carol Channing once do a thing of Hello, Dolly. That was her big thing. So Elvis would have these rings and watches and all this stuff on. And they said, well, that could buy somebody a house, or that could buy that's really expensive. Well, he did it for a reason. Elvis was always, he said when Elvis got up in the morning, Joe Esposito, one of the closest of all the people who worked for him, he was the closest. And he found him dead after Ginger Alden found him dead that morning. He said that all you had to do was say to Elvis, I like that watch you're wearing, or I like that ring you're wearing. See, Elvis would get up in the morning and say to himself, this is what Joe Esposito's exact words were, and say, what can I do to make someone happy today? What can I do to make, so sometimes you if you see clips, he's always joking. He's very self-deprecating. Yeah. Cary Grant was a great one for that. He was this gorgeous, gorgeous man who could wear the cut of the suits that he wore were like, nobody can wear a suit like that. Nobody. And it just the look. Yet you see him in Monkey Business. You see him doing, and he's on a little tricycle going around. And he's got a hat on his head making funny faces. And he's the handsomest man in the world, yet he doesn't care about being silly. And I think that really, so Elvis would do stuff like that too. He would joke around like that too and make people happy. But all you had to do was say, hey, Elvis, I like that ring. He'd take it off and he'd give it to you. Yeah. He bought these things to give away. Because he knew somebody was going to, he goes, if I make it fancy enough and big enough, it's going to force people to say something. And once they say something, I got them, I give it to them. Yeah. It's like, that's pretty, and it's a pretty interesting way to live your life. You live your life to give. So with Colonel Tom Parker, taking 50% of his income is a sin. I mean, that's a sin, because can you imagine all the charities that Elvis would give to? Elvis would give to tons and tons, and he would hand them by hand, his own hand. He didn't just, send a check in the mail. He brought it to them. That money, can you imagine the money, the charities today? And they say he gave so much away that when he died, everything, the house and the plane, everything he owned totaled $1 million. And he wanted to leave an account in his bank open, or set up an account in the bank that would accrue interest. So he could keep giving more money even after he died. But that didn't happen because Colonel Tom Parker had, even Lisa Marie just found this out a couple years ago, that he still owned rights to Elvis's music. He was still making money on Elvis's music. And they said with Elvis, he would make Elvis record tons and tons of songs, more songs than he could ever release. And then they saw Colonel Tom in the office with his cigar sticking out of his mouth. And he put some stuff in the back, some tapes in the back of the file cabinet, locked it up, patted it, and said, after Elvis dies, this is going to keep me comfy for the rest of my life. He said it's like he was overworking him. Yeah. He knew Elvis was going to die. He was pushing him to die. And you would think that somebody would have said, you think one of the doctors would have replaced some of his pills with sugar pills, like slowly decrease the dose, like take 2 of these. One is a real pill, one's a sugar pill. Like just decrease the dose a little at a time, a prescription at a time, make it look like he's taking the same amount. And a lot of the prescriptions he was taking were by needle. So, and they would bring it to them. Well, if you're preparing this and you see this man is dying clearly, why don't you fill it part of the way with medication and slowly decrease the medication and increase the water in the vial? And that will wean him off the drugs, because he's really addicted to them. That's all you have to do. Like, why? I'm here and I'm not a doctor, but it doesn't take much thought to, hello there, Ian. Nice to see you here. So we're saying number 8, hit that like button. Thank you very much. It really doesn't take much thought. And the sad part about this is, well, the whole thing is sad, obviously, But Elvis, they say Elvis was happy every day because he was always looking for something good to do. And when Elvis was in the army, his mother, Elvis was there's a story that he went to a used shop and he wanted a gun. And his parents said, no, you can't have a gun, and bought him a guitar instead. And his father said, that's not true. I don't know who made that up. Elvis was an extremely gentle boy. He would never want to, he said once, he goes, Dad, I don't want to shoot birds. I don't want to have a gun to shoot birds. You know, they grew corn in the backyard at Graceland, and he used to drive the tractor. There's pictures of Elvis with his shirt off, driving the tractor. And taking care of the corn. And the mother used to have chickens running around, and she used to wear aprons, and she would scatter seed in the ground for the chickens. And the house was really bought for the parents. The master bedroom was given to his parents, not to him. That because he promised his mother that when they lost the 2-room shack, it was a shotgun shack, and he said, Mama, I'm going to work real hard, and you're never going to be homeless again. So he bought them Graceland, and as far as he's concerned, he's the king of rock and roll. He's a sex symbol, and you think all these women, you'd be going up there and having the mother hanging around feeding chickens. You would think that would be, you wouldn't want to. How are you going to get women coming up to your place? No, his mother was the best woman there. She was the most important. She could do whatever she wanted to. And they looked in her, they found her belongings in the attic because they had been stored away after she died. And they looked through her clothes and found that they were very humble clothes. None of them were clothes from any pricey place. She still wanted to wear the clothes she wore when she was poor, because they know that you can have something one day and everything can be gone. And you could see the stitching marks where she repaired.
Yeah.
Repairs all over her clothes. Now what was I getting at? Now I don't know where I was going there, but here's a little tidbit about how just to know just how poor Elvis was. The father supposedly borrowed $180 to build that 2-room shack. Shotgun shack is you open up the front door and you can shoot straight through and it goes out the back door. That's how small it is, and that the front and the back door are lined up. Well, they lost that because the father they were too poor to pay the $180 back. Well, the father worked about 4 or 5 jobs. He worked very hard, and he had a really bad back because he had broken his back working so hard. And one of his jobs, he went to get paid. The person who paid him decided not to pay him for all the work that he did. So he only wrote the check for $1. And David is coming in here. Hello there, David. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. So
yeah, David, you have to put yourself in the studio. I don't think he did that.
Yeah, he needs to put himself in the studio. We can see you, kind of.
I can.
I can kind of see him too, but doesn't he have to hit a button?
Yeah, he has to include his mic and his webcam into the studio.
Oh.
Can you hear him? Because I can't.
I heard him say hello.
Okay. He might at least he's here. That's reassuring.
He's trying.
Because I had a big discussion with David on StreamYard, and he had no problems.
Maybe he's scared of me.
No. You're very inviting. Okay, well, I'm sorry. Don't let that.
Okay, all right. I'll finish the story. No, what was I saying? Oh, this is really sad. So he wrote him his paycheck for the week for all the hours that he worked was $1. And Elvis's father knew he was losing the home for his family, $180 for Shotgun Shack. And he knew that he didn't have the money to buy food for his family either. These people were poor beyond pure because they were both mixed blood. You see, they have to be. How do I know that both are mixed blood? First of all, an extensive search on both of the surnames going back on both sides of the family are surnames associated only with Melungians, people who are triracial. And in Jim Crow South, if you were white, you could not marry someone who was mixed or was all Black or all Native American. You could not. That was the law of Jim Crow South. So if one is mixed, the other one is mixed. And his father goes back to, is related to Abraham Lincoln's grandfather. And Abraham Lincoln was referred to by Stephen Douglas during the debate as the Africano. You will be our Africano president, because people don't realize how dark his skin was. Melungians were dark-skinned and blue-eyed, and he had the features of Melungian. So it was recorded in newspapers all over. This is how racist this country is, by the way. It was recorded in newspapers all over the country that Abraham Lincoln, who was related to Elvis, was an Africano, and he would be our first Africano president because he was mixed race. So it's interesting that he got voted in as president of the United States without one vote from the South. Not one vote from the Democrat South, the KKK, Jim Crow South, did not vote for him. So, but he won enough votes to be president, and everybody who read anything about him read that he was an Africano. That's how they referred to him. So Barack Obama, actually, he's triracial, which means 1/3 white, 1/3 Native American, 1/3 a freed slave. Or it's the Melungians were, if a male slave had sex with a white female, the child was born free. If a white man had sex with a Black female, the child would be born a slave. So that's why these people ended up having no community and being extremely oppressed. Probably one of the, if not the most oppressed groups in the nation, because they belong nowhere. Yeah. So they hid in the mountains of Appalachia. And so that's, to me, of wondering, why are they pulling down Abraham Lincoln's statue and Frederick Douglass, a freed slave statue? Why are they doing this? Well, if Obama is, got his little thing going on, and he bought that place in Washington, D.C., that he was going to run, he says, I'm not going to leave this town because I'm going to watch what that guy is doing, what Trump is doing. He said he wasn't going to leave. And he said he was going to connect all these groups around the country to do their job to get him out of office. Now, what are the first things they do is, why are they pulling down Abraham Lincoln's statue? Well, why are they pulling down Abraham Lincoln's statue? Well, you have got, hello there, Texas Shepherd. How are you doing? Popping in for a quick second. Smash that like button, y'all. Thank you, Texas Shepherd. I can always count on you. Well, wouldn't it, because that sounds crazy. These people doesn't make any sense. He freed the slaves. He's mixed. Well, if you get rid of Abraham Lincoln and you rewrite history, then Obama is the first African, not African American, not descendant of slaves, not somebody who had the experience, Black experience in this country. Obama has more white in him than Abraham Lincoln. So that's why you would want to pull down Abraham Lincoln's statue to get, you would have to get rid of him, and that bumps up.
Well, like all totalitarians, they have to completely wipe all cultural memory. So yeah,
that's what totalitarian. That's what they do when we change over to communism. You have to destroy, and even the black freed slaves like Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington.
I know David would want to be part of the discussion right now. So can we get this? I know David would want to be part of this discussion right now.
Why isn't he clicking? Click, David, click.
David, can you should see a thing where it says enter the studio. You click on the video of yourself and you enter the studio, the broadcast studio. I mean, and if you have any problems, David,
we see him. He's trying. No, he's not trying anymore. He's gone.
Yeah, message me. I feel like what's it? The movie Poltergeist. It's like it speak to me. It's like I don't know because I can't see it.
Do you think he was afraid? Blue Pop One. Hello there, Blue Pop One. How you doing? I gotta go. Night, night, all. Hugs and kisses. Oh, gee.
Remember to smash that like bell, smash the notification bell, smash the subscribe button.
And CB, 1968 Elvis comeback TV special. Badass. That was the best. Bye, Willie. Oh, so what was I saying? I don't know.
Well, okay. So what's
about the fact? Yeah, the fact. But I think there's a narcissistic aspect to it. Obviously, he will know if the truth comes out. The obvious truth that nobody wants to say, but I'll say it: that he wasn't the first. He wasn't the first. It was Abraham Lincoln. That's why you're tearing down his statue. Otherwise, why would you tear the statue down? And of Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver. Mm-hmm. These people were slaves. They were slaves, and they are black. Doesn't that black matter? And the fact that they were actually slaves that basically freed themselves, that's a pretty amazing thing, you know? Yeah. And there was the idea out there is that the South was the entire country. And the North didn't exist. These kids in these groups don't know that the North was free. So is he? Oh, David's trying again. David is trying. Yeah, Obama was Obama is biracial. His father's from Africa, and his mother is Irish. Kenyan. His mother was white American Irish in particular.
Oh, okay. David is saying he needs you to add him.
I need to add him.
Yeah.
What do I do? Invite.
Maybe you have to add him to the broadcast studio.
No, you sent him the link.
Yeah, but okay, so you see his video right now.
Right.
So click on his icon. Yeah,
there we go.
I did that before. I clicked on the picture before, and it wasn't.
So sorry.
Working. I did. I clicked on it before. Oh,
that's fine. No need to apologize.
Do it when the girl was trying to do it. It did it when Rob said to do it to make the girl look stupid. Listen to Rob. That's the answer. It listens to Rob.
That's like if I have to make up a completely BS resume. I'll do like social media presence producer. Yeah.
Yeah, but Robert Free saying, I think we're facing. I don't think we're facing.
By the way, now that I'm like the vanilla in this Neapolitan ice cream here, I'm gonna turn on my lights and because this. It's a
Oh, try vanilla. I would be strawberry because I'm wearing red. Oh,
He's turning on his beauty
good.
light, his ring
You're
light. That's what
good.
it is. He wants to look good. That's what it is.
David, could you
He
be
wants everyone to be seen, the white one in the middle.
you're a little quiet, David. So if you can speak louder or turn up your microphone volume.
Okay, let me
I
try
can
it
you
now.
get to the center of the screen because they see half your face.
Let's just try it. Yeah, it's like so many technical issues with this thing. There
There
we go.
you go. I feel your whole face. It's
Okay.
important to see your whole face. Otherwise, I'm talking to an eye. Wait a second. Where did he go? Probably had to go to the little boy's room.
Yes, that's Rob.
Yeah, I know. He does that often. I can go through a whole stream. You know that 11-hour stream he did? I didn't go to the bathroom at all.
11 hours. Wow.
I mean, and I'm a girl. I'm a girl.
And I'm old,
This
so my
should-
bladder's giving out, so I got to go every 5 minutes. So,
Yeah,
but I'm
weird.
late to the party, so I apologize. I just had so many.
Yeah, that's okay. 10-10. It is definitely okay. The candlelight vigil's going on, and I haven't got a candle to blow. Worth my soul. I think Rob has got the candles. So could you light a candle for us so we can?
I had a candle burning here continuously for the whole thing. You just couldn't see it. So,
Wow.
Well, I want to
The
say
mood.
during that live stream, I was throwing back whiskey, so that's why I had to.
Oh my gosh, we are a train wreck, man.
I would have
Felina's train right off the rails here.
No, it's always a train wreck. It's always a train wreck. And like in the spirit of Elvis, I would be drinking like some Tennessee whiskey right now. If all
Elvis did not drink alcohol.
okay.
You want to know why?
I'm gonna make Rob a banana peanut butter sandwich here pretty soon, so he'll.
Well, of course he did. A lot of GIs when they came back from the war got on drugs, and the reason why is that they did maneuvers. They gave them maneuvers. They gave them drugs to wake up, and they gave them drugs to fall asleep. And so when these boys came back from the army, they were already addicted. And the person giving them the drugs was, they considered a doctor. It's okay if the idea is it's okay if a doctor gives it to you. It's not a narcotic. It's not an illegal street drug. It's something that's good for you. So that's why that is. But Elvis didn't drink. I'm talking to air, this guy who's deflating atheism, who knows, is trying to promote God all the time, doesn't want to hear what I'm about to say because it's actually pretty important. If you're really promoting God, if that's your thing, might not be his thing anymore.
Well, I know that one of the things about Elvis that was always interesting to me is that he was a consummate professional. That regardless of whatever struggles he was having, like the loss of his mom was deeply. I think that's probably the one thing that was the thing that killed him, and that really affected him deeply. And coming up out of such poverty, and I think that's one of the reasons why he ran in the other direction with all of his opulence, with his with the house, and everything. I think it's probably because he came from such humble beginnings. I think a lot of people did at that time, but he was just harboring deep pain from his mom. I think his mom was the one thing, the crux of his whole life, that the loss of his mom was the one that really affected him.
Yeah, though he did I don't remember the name of the film, and he was a performer in the film. It was a color. It was in color. Okay.
Rob. That's my buddy bringing the candle in the darkness.
So in that particular film, I forget, I don't know why the name is escaping me, but his mother and father were in the audience and everybody was clapping and he was on stage performing. And when he went into the army, his mother died when he was in the army, and he could never see that film again. He never watched it again. It was too painful for him. But that's where he met Priscilla, is when he was in the army. And his mother told him that you got to marry a virgin. And the only girls that are virgins these days are girls that are, you can't get them. You can't, when you pledge your vow to whatever, they can't be older than 14 because they're going to not be virgins anymore. So that's where he met Priscilla right after his mother died. He was in a really low point. And then she said she came home, she was dating this other guy, and he called her up and said that, I'd like her to come, and there's a place I have for her to come and live. And he didn't have sex with her. He wouldn't. She wanted to. She said, but he wouldn't do it. He goes, I want to keep you a virgin till our wedding day. I want to keep you nice, because that's what his mother would have wanted. And of course, Lisa Marie was born to the day, 9 months to the day of their wedding. And there's that little thing. Oh, there's so much to say about Elvis, but the poverty thing. I'm going to get back to the poverty thing, that check. When I told you that check. Well, the father took that dollar check, and because he was so desperate, and that the employer had gypped him out of his money, and because he lived on the wrong side of the tracks, Elvis's father changed the 1 to a 4. So he changed it to $4 check. And the teller at the bank caught that it was changed. So the judge sentenced Elvis's father to jail 1 year for every dollar. So for $3, 3 years in prison. And that's how poor. Now you tell me that Elvis was a racist and they were in with the KKK and the white. Are you kidding? If he was, he would have never pulled that on him, because that's the in group, was the Jim Crow South. He knew he could get away with something like that. That's how poor we think we know poverty. And that's when there was no handouts from the government. There was nothing. And that's when they moved to Memphis. And it was, they did live in a government subsidized building because they're so poor. They said a rabbi lived above Elvis's, and he would go up there and he would learn. He wanted to learn. He read over 10,000 books on religion alone. And he had a photographic memory. And he learned as much as he could from the rabbi as well. But we know he was Christian, but he just learned voraciously about religion. It was the most important thing in the world to him. But as far as Priscilla goes, they said that, I remember, I think it was the Maury Povich show once. He said, today we're going to have a group of women on who were 13 or 14 years old, and Elvis used to watch TV with them. And we're going to see what they say and what he did. And oh my God, they're going to destroy Elvis or something. And these women came on. They're all kind of overweight, short hair, just regular, good, wholesome looking women who've been married and had kids and all that stuff, down to earth. And he asked him all these questions. What did Elvis do to you? We watched TV. Nothing. She goes, Elvis's mother wanted him to get to know girls who were virgins. But Elvis was comfortable with us like he was our age. He was the same age as we were. He just wanted to watch TV and eat snacks. That's all he wanted to do. He joked around, like there wasn't any kissing or touching or anything. It was just getting together with friends. And he completely respected them as he respected every co-star he had. He had a different kind of relationship with. One was a friend. The other one he talked about God all the time with. and he enjoyed talking to this co-star about God and all these details.
The one who became a nun.
Yes, and she became a nun.
Yeah.
And she says she owes it to Elvis. Elvis actually helped her in that direction. And she became the mother of the convent. So you think about Elvis was really unusual. I mean, to respect a woman and want to keep her a virgin. Linda Thompson said when she met Elvis, she was a virgin too. And he goes, "Oh, I want to keep you the way you are. You're beautiful the way you are, and I want you to stay the way you are. And I want to make you something that you're not." And that's the interesting thing. And I don't remember the word, but there's a word for it. Now, Priscilla says that Elvis would bring dinnerware wherever he went because he was a germaphobe, which I think her and her Scientology, I think it's really twisted her brain. I really don't think that that's true. How could it be true? When you see him in concert, you see him bending, the girl gives him a scarf and he bends down and he kisses her, right? And he's kissing all these women. And then one girl he kissed and he started to sing Go This Way. And then he went backwards and he kissed the girl again. It was like, I want another kiss from this girl. And so I don't think he was a germaphobe. They say because the question was, and it's too weird for somebody who's very sexy, who moves very sexy, king of rock and roll. He's the one who injected sex into rock and roll. I mean, before him was Bill Haley and Fats Domino. There was no sex in rock. Rock and roll wasn't even a rock and roll. Rock and roll didn't become, rock and roll is a combination of rockabilly, which is white, and rhythm and blues. It's actually a combination of the two.
Who is that other rock and roll? He's not very well known to Americans, but he moved to England and he.
Jimi Hendrix?
No.
He did. He did move to England.
Yeah, there was another rockabilly guy who actually moved to England and became a big star there, and he inspired David Bowie, like Aladdin Sane. But he was very, very sexual in the way he moved on stage, and this was before the Beatles. Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of learned about that recently.
Jeez, I don't know. We're talking like the early 50s. Because Elvis's first recording was in 1953. That was his first recording. And then he did That's All Right, Mama in 1954, which was his first hit. Which the sound is different than it was originally performed. It was a rhythm and blues song, but he did it differently. He injected sex into it, and even though that's
what rock and roll was. It was taking country music. It was taking not so much gospel music. Obviously, he incorporated that, and soul music and things, and simply performing it in a different way. Yeah,
but the sex part of it. He injected something into it that the African American performers weren't. Maybe it's because it was like, be careful, don't if everybody was.
Well, that was just it, though. I mean, he was one of the first people to really kind of tip the apple cart, because they have police officers actually go up on stage in some of the places where he performed and stop him from making hip movements. But I think. And Rob and I've had this discussion, and when silly discussions about soul, but I think soul is just something that everybody has. It depends on who you are. It's something in your soul that you feel that just comes out. I mean, it's not, and people try to assign a color to it, or but I think it's just something that everybody's born with, a rhythm that you have in your spirit, that when you get happy or when you get excited, that it just comes out. And I think Elvis, I don't think he meant to be perverse in any way. I think I think he was just feeling the music. Oh yeah, I know. I'm just saying they thought of it as perverse, but I think it was just him, because he was such a soulful person that I think that it felt it in his spirit. That's just how he, as a young man, he was moving, and they somehow took that and made it profane, when in fact it was just him, basically like anybody that's young and alive and wants to express themselves. They feel it to the core, and it comes out in how they express themselves. And he just happened to express himself by moving around that way on stage. And so I think that was their way of trying to shut that down. And that's why I think girls kind of, well, one, he was a gorgeous man. I mean, but two, also, you know, he was dangerous, and it was something that they hadn't had yet, because, you know, most, you had choreographed movements that were kind of like nice, you know, group movements or things like that, or you would have folk singers, or you would have things, things like that, but nothing like Elvis. I mean, and then when he hit, you know, it's like him and both the Beatles, it was just mass hysteria, because no one had ever seen anything like that. So it was immediately like this, everything in America just became focused on this, you know, this young man who's moving up on stage in what they thought was a sexual manner. And it was just him, I think, just expressing himself to the music, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. What he like I was saying earlier, he and his mother, and if his mother wasn't well enough to go, they would go to revival meetings, and they were 2 or 3 hours long, and they'd be singing all night long, singing and dancing to the whole music, the whole calling on the Holy Spirit, and just like you're when people feel that they've got the Holy Spirit swirling in them, they move. You know, and you just move very loose in whatever way God is moving in you.
Because the music's phenomenal. I mean, the music just gets something in your spirit. It makes you want to express yourself. And so that's, it's kind of like, in a way, it's the purest thing in the world, actually. So.
Yeah, it is. And his mother certainly would have said, they asked his mother, oh, I think he's adorable. Because his mother was so religious. If she thought he was doing something, that's why she wanted him to marry a virgin. You stay away from the girls with experience. You want a virgin. She would have told him, you know, oh, you're moving kind of sex. She would have. That's the first. I know my mother. It was weird because she looks at me. She would, when she was alive, look at me and everything. Oh, everything she'd find me or people on TV, she would say, oh, that's bad. Seinfeld, oh, they're talking about sex. Everything's bad. But Elvis, when he first came on the scene, she just, he was so good to his mother. Elvis was so good. Nothing about his movements did it click off in her head, but everybody else was sexual.
Yeah, and it seems so tame now. When you watch it, it honestly seems incredibly tame. Like what he was doing was just incredibly tame for now, especially. But at the time, I'm sure, you know, it was probably incendiary. But now it's just kind of silly and quaint because, you know, we're in a different era now. But it just was innocent. I think it was just him expressing himself.
Or
to the joy of the music.
He would kind of like slide down the microphone and bend the microphone because he's moving to the music, and it would get up again. And it was like pretty amazing to be able to move like that and get up and down. But when you see professional dancers, they can do all sorts of things, and nobody thinks that's. What about ballet dancers and the men with their tights and that? You know, I mean, it's like. Everything is showing there. I mean, why is it that mood, you know?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like it was a different era, and I think, you know, if you know, Ed Sullivan and things like that, because where they would keep the camera, you know, above his shoulders, but yet you could hear the women screaming when he was performing, and it's because they were reacting to him dancing, and I think it's just because they had never seen a person who was so visceral and raw like that, and it. You know, and at that age, you know, women and him, I mean, I'm sure he was probably dealing with his sexuality, but it's just, I honestly think it was probably one of the more innocent performers out of all the, you know.
Because he was laughing. Did you ever see when the girl started to scream, he would turn around and say, can you believe this? And he's laughing his head off. To him, he was like a joke. It's like, why are they screaming? I don't understand why they're screaming.
Exactly. It's just that nobody. It was literally like, I think there's certain times in society, you know, I guess zeitgeist or where things happen, and he just happened to be at that specific moment in history and time that, you know, where that explosion occurred because of his personality, his behavior, his looks, his music, and the things he brought to the table, that he opened up, you know, a lot of things for a lot of different people. based on all the things that had been poured to him as a child and that he had endured and things that he soaked up and took in and copied. I mean, he gets a lot of that from people, but at the same time, I think there was a lot of natural soul to Elvis that from being, in the South and being raised the way that he was, he just soaked everything in, and then it just kind of came out on a national platform, and it changed the way we even think about rock and roll music and the kind of hysteria that comes with that, and that fuels that. And I think he was one of the first ones to ever make people say, wow, this rock and roll is something that's going to be here to stay, because it just was kind of like, at that point they're trying to shut stations down and
they never seen anything. And I think it was Jackie Wilson quoted. He said that they say that Elvis stole moves from black singers, but I'm telling you right now, I know black singers that stole moves from Elvis. It's the other way around. Just because if you grow up in these revival meetings, you're going to church every day. You're in these revival meetings for hours at a time at night, calling on the Holy Spirit to come and move within you. And then you move with the Holy Spirit and you move with the singing. It's that I think it was, and that's every single night. And then go to church on the weekends. He belonged to East Trigg Gospel Baptist Church that had an all black choir. And he sang in it because he had the sound. Reverend Brewster said that he had the sound of Calvary when he sang. You could hear it. And that echo will never die. He had something that nobody else had. And they could see that. And it's like to be allowed into. I remember when I was younger, my mother would say, no, you can never, ever, ever sing gospel. No. Only God sing gospel, because Mahalia Jackson was God and Lena Horne was Jesus Christ, as far as my mother was concerned. And Lena Horne, come to find out, Lena Horne had more white in her than anything. She just had a drop of African blood, a drop of maybe Native American blood. They're finding out now that African Americans who look back at their grandparents and the pictures of their grandparent ancestors, and they see long black straight hair, they think, oh, we must be mixed with Native Americans. And there was a study done at some college. Somebody got their dissertation on it done, big, wide study done. And the amount of African Americans that actually have Native American in them is infinitesimal. What they were seeing and they thought was Native American was that there was some white in them that straightened out the hair. So what was I getting at? I don't remember. There was a point
about Elvis's soul in church.
Elvis and soul and church.
Jackson, yeah.
The Holy Spirit moving him and
gospel music.
Gospel music.
Sounds like we're playing.
It's getting really hot in here. I turn the air conditioner down. It's getting really hot in here. When it gets hot, I start to my memories start to fade over.
That's us, yeah.
Oh, what I'm saying. I forgot the points I'm trying to make, and I forgot. Wait a second, I was getting somewhere. Of course, he had Native American in him too. His great grandmother was mourning White Dove, and she was a Cherokee princess. So he literally was royalty. his great grandfather was
not just the king of rock and roll. He's also
the king of rock and roll, and he has full tribal membership in the Cherokee Nation. He was honored with the Lakota Sioux medallion, which is something that they hand make, of course. And he was honored with that as being a Native American who got as far as he did. But as if the Native, he still must have taken the moves from the African Americans. Wait a second, Native Americans move when they sing and dance, when they sing too, don't they? They move.
Well, I guess that's what I was trying to say. Is I think if anybody who's grown up in the South who's ever gone to church, you know, that what everybody would like to believe is that the Deep South, everybody is so racist. The thing is, we're all intermarried. We're all have families. We're multiple. I have friends who have Indian. I have friends who have Black. I have friends who have Chinese. I mean, we're all intermarried. So it tickles me to no end to watch all the national media all the media say, you know, the deep racist out, because it's still like something that they love to say, but it's not factually accurate. We're all intermarried. We have kids of different races, and we're all getting along just fine, and we're all taking care of each other.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I mean, it's such a fabrication, and they just keep trying to stoke this kind of nonsense. And one of the things that, like, you know, if we're talking about Elvis, is like, you know, my girlfriend just brought up an excellent point, which is that you go to his concerts, it had people from all walks of life, all levels of culture, all you know, poverty levels, and people. You know, you had the people up in the cheap seats that could afford tickets, and then you had the rich people up front who, you know, knew the concert promoter. But everybody was at that concert. But when they were there, they were all one, and they were unified by that music. And that's what good artists do. They unify with their heart, and they unify with their message of their spirit. And he was one of those people who was a unifier. And you know, and I defy like anybody to say, like, if you go to a church now, it's all about the Lord. It's not about, you know, you know, this is your section, this is that, you know, that's just a bunch of crap. I mean, it's like, we all, for years and decades, you know, we learned our lessons during the 60s, and that's one of the things I think that people kind of tended to forget. It's like, it's still very raw for everybody here, and the one thing that we don't want is the world to turn like that again. And so we're all working very hard and overtime, according to the media, and trying to just start rampant racism down here. But the reality is that we're all getting along just fine. And I think Elvis actually was a part of that. I think because he's one of those people who,
you hit the nail on the head. He hit the nail on the head. There was an article in Night. Hello there, Amy Joyce. How you doing? There was an article that came out in the 90s that could be scrubbed from the internet. I'm not sure. That I read the whole article, and it said it. And you can't say it now. If you said it now, you Black Lives Matter will just burn your house down. It said that Elvis did what Martin Luther King could have never done. It was because of Elvis that the civil rights movement got together, because at his concerts, there were stations that only played music for white teenagers and stations that played music for Black teenagers, because of the segregation. The Jim Crow South was so segregated. And what happened was the African American teenagers loved Elvis's music, and so did the white. So you had white people loving music. He sang some songs that were written by Leader and Stoller, and some written by Black writers and musicians. And so he exposed the white kids to blues and all this other music. And what happened was that both white and Black kids, this had never happened before in the South because of the segregation at the time. They segregated them, and they got upset. They got really angry. Look, we're here because we all want to enjoy his music. We want to enjoy it together. We don't want to be reminded that we're supposed to be segregated. Like, take our masks off. Stop already. It's kind of like this social distancing. It's kind of like segregation. Of Jim Crow segregation, isn't it, in a way? So these kids grew up and got really pissed and said, enough of this. We just want to go and enjoy the music. We just want to live. Enough of the social distancing. We just want to live and enjoy this music. So Martin Luther King, the bandwagon was started to pile on these kids who said that enough is enough. We're going to have civil rights passed. We're going to end this segregation. And it was because of what Elvis did that he brought the two groups together. And no artist had done that before.
Bernie Sanders might have been an Elvis fan. So, I'm sorry.
To what?
I said Bernie Sanders might have been Elvis. That's why he was at the
Well, I guess that's my point, though. Everybody in all walks of life have been fans. I mean, you could be a fan of John Denver, but you could still be a radical Nazi. Or, I mean, music is kind of that thing that, unfortunately, in all art and sciences and things like that, you find people that cling to things that probably, if you found out who your fellow fans were, you may not be as excited. I mean, I know you love Justin Bieber, Rob. I mean, Rob, Justin Bieber's like your favorite thing. No, I'm kidding. But I mean, one of the things that that he did too, while we're deflating atheism, is I think probably too Elvis brought a lot of people to the table on religion because being a very religious person, in his several albums of hymns, performing hymns in concert, it probably made a lot of people out there go, "What is this all about?" And come to the table and say, well, if Elvis, you kind of like, when you fall in love with an artist, you kind of do things that they do, or you want to do things that they do. If you're Bowie, you want to, go through his radical fashion changes, things like that, and you emulate that in your own personal life. And I think too, probably Elvis probably brought people to the table.
Nobody wore a cape though. Nobody.
Well, he's the king of rock and roll. I mean, come on, you got to bring some pizzazz, bring the folks in the doors,
Yeah, he threw that aloha and white.
Also sprayed Zarathustra, right before every concert. So all I knew it as
we were talking about that. We were talking about that.
Yeah. So.
Well, you'd have to be really confident to like wear a cape when you're going grocery shopping or something.
Well, capes were all the rage in the 70s. I mean, you had Evel Knievel. I mean,
Did he have
evil? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, capes were all the rage in the 70s.
He copied Elvis clearly.
But
that's why I wore a towel around the house because I needed a cape. Superman. So. That's where I got my love of cape from. Man. When I go to Rob's house, I wear a cape. So I'm gonna wear a cape. I would wear a cape right now if I could, but
he has the towel around his neck and nothing else. Yeah.
My mom would be like, "Get in the house," and I'd be like, "No, I'm wearing my cape, Mom. I'm fashioning my cape." She's like, "Well, at least put some underwear on." That kind of thing. So I was like 5. So what do you want? But yeah, so I mean, I just think he doesn't, the saddest part for me, I think, is watching his legacy, like with all artists, I think, kind of fade. Like you ask some kids now who he is, and they don't know, and so that to me is like one of the saddest things. And I think even in time, this is going to sound like heresy, but I think so. Even the Beatles at some point, probably within 30 or 40 years, will start to see a little bit, but see, it's so much a part of people's lives. But Elvis is kind of different in that way that I don't think he's as well known in some circles like he should be. And it's funny, like when you see younger artists that will remake his songs or use, I thought one of the funniest things I saw was like, Meg and I were talking about this was when they used his music in The Big Lebowski. It's like suddenly that song, became, it's like suddenly the downloads for that song, things like that.
I love the movie. I forgot. It's been so long since I've seen the movie.
Oh, it's when Mrs. Lebowski is. I'm trying to think of which song it was. I can't think. Yeah, I know. I was trying to think the conversation.
Viva Las Vegas.
Was it
Megan's yelling Viva Las Vegas. Somebody out there will know, but it's the conversation song, and I can't think of the name of it right now. But I remember, hearing about the downloads like years later when people would watch that movie, they would search for that song, or. Are
you sure it's not the Bob Dylan song they had in that movie?
No, it's not. It's the. I just wish I could remember the name of it. It's like when you get older, your brain just goes and like Radar Heat here is just like making my brain go. But irregardless, what I was gonna say is
I'm sure you could Google it.
Right? Yeah, the way that music somehow finds a way of coming back and people rediscover music, and I think that's a beautiful thing that kids now, like with. Bruno Mars, and a lot of kids didn't know who the Time were. And then so when they hear Bruno Mars music, he's like, well, this is what influenced it. Now the kids are all back into the Time or Prince or things like that, or even Bowie. It's amazing to me to watch kids rediscover music because it gives you hope. You're like, wow, this is something that my parents loved, that I loved, and now a whole new generation of kids are going to pick up on that. And I think that's the one thing about his legacy that I'm hoping changes, because there are the diehard fans, but it's like you start, you worry about artist legacy.
One of the reasons why this happened to Elvis, because they say he stole black music. He stole black music. He's a racist. There was the rumor, and the rumor came out in Boston that he did something that was racist to a black person. And they traced it back, and they found out that Elvis had never in his life had been to Boston. The whole thing was made up in Boston. It was totally made up. He hadn't even gone to Boston yet his entire life. So the stigma was put on him. But little do they know that he grew up on the side of the tracks that was, you're mixed, you're not pure white. He shopped in, they said that Elvis would wear these clothes that had a lot of flair and a lot of color. And he would shop in used clothing stores in the black side of town that were, no racist would wear used clothes that were worn by hand-me-downs from a black man. A racist would never do that. And they said, when they went on stage, they said, who is this guy with the pink stripes and the purple shirt? And who is this? He had this strange way of dressing right from the beginning. And when he was on stage, he put a little bit of liner on the corner of his eyes to intensify his eyes. Well, anybody who goes on stage does that because the lights can wash you out. So I suppose he must have thought, well, if actors do that on stage because the lights wash you out, I'll do it. So he was the first. You think that Dylan was the first one that used the little eye makeup. It was Elvis. Everything was Elvis. Even the 80s. First, I thought that the 80s were kind of like Bowie sparked the 80s. And then I realized when you look at the 80s with the suits and the big shoulders and the bright colors and the guys with the hair slicked back, and that was Elvis. Elvis inspired the 80s. That's what it was. It was, of course, it was the one that inspired everything. It was Elvis.
Well,
Elvis,
and you think about all the artists that decided to pick up a guitar or become a musician because of him, and those artists in turn influenced. It's like and I guess that's what I was trying to say is there's a legacy that comes from the love that people have of certain artists. It's like, I don't think a lot of people for a longest time never knew who Howlin' Wolf was unless they were true, fans or true collectors didn't know who Howlin' Wolf was. And then suddenly somebody from Led Zeppelin mentions it, and now all these kids going out buying Howlin' Wolf records. I mean, it's not, or trying to, track down, vinyl for Howlin' Wolf. It's like, it's one of those things that I think that the best thing that an artist can do is to pay homage by honestly saying who influenced them. And I think a lot of artists said that, that Elvis influenced them to pick up a guitar and be and become an artist and to get into music because it made them want to be a musician,
All right. It was that the Beatles said, "Oh, that looks like a good job," when they saw Elvis.
Yeah, have girls scream and then chase me. That would be all epic, and get paid for it. So.
What I found it very interesting. Now you have that book, and Bob Dylan wrote a little blurb about the book.
Want me to read that again?
Yeah, well, I just want to say, because there's a famous Dylan quote that says Elvis started everything. When Bob Dylan,
John Lennon said that before Elvis there was nothing.
Oh, okay. Well, Bob Dylan said something similar.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very surprising, because you would think, Bob Dylan would be the kind of guy who would maybe think that Elvis was kind of style over substance. But I just think it's very interesting that Bob Dylan himself was just completely rocked by Elvis.
I was singing the they were the story goes at Sun Records. Sam Phillips hooked him up with Bill Black and Scotty Moore, who played music for strip clubs. So they really knew the beat, Yeah. And all night long they were suggesting how to sing these songs because they wanted to introduce to the white teenagers, black music. And they were all night long. They had their suggestions. And when everybody was leaving, going out the door, Elvis was still in the recording studio. And he decided he just started to play That's All Right Mama with a whole new sound. That's it. That's what we're looking for. It's kind of like all night long for hours. You've been telling Elvis what to do and how to do it. You leave him alone. You got this guy here, a guy who grew up with the movers and the holy rollers, and in black gospel choirs, and living on that side of the tracks. This guy, he came up with a sound, That's All Right Mama, in a way that the original singer was, I don't recall the one who wrote it, but it was an African American, didn't even sing it that way. It was a completely different arrangement. And it just, they played it 24 hours a day, over and over and over again, because nobody had ever heard anything that sounded like that before. They'd heard African American black music. They've not heard anything like this before. This is something different. And Elvis just, it's a shame, because when he came back from the army, his mother died, he came back from the army, and then Colonel Tom Parker gets him into those formulaic movies. When he was given the part, he was given the role of Mike in West Side Story. And Colonel Tom Parker didn't want him to play that because, it's racial stuff. I don't want nothing controversial. The boy, my boy. And he would call him boy, my boy, which is a term that they would call African American men. He didn't even respect him. And that, Lieber and Stoller, they were two Jewish guys who wrote, let's see what 3 songs. They would Stand By Me, even though they did give a credit to Benny King, but Benny King didn't write it at all. They just sometimes they give you a credit to the person who sings it. And I heard them talking about writing it on TV. They were just bantering between the two of them when they were writing it and how it came out. And then they presented and worked with him, with Benny King. And it kind of, you realize after hearing them talk, they forgot that they had even given him a credit, Benny King. They wrote it. They wrote Jailhouse Rock, and they wrote Hound Dog, which Big Mama Willa Mae Thornton sang. And Big Mama Willa Mae Thornton was the one who wrote Ball and Chain, which Janis Joplin is famous for. The Hound Dog. So people listen to Elvis. Hound Dog, that's another song he stole from the blacks. No, 2 Jewish guys. Just because a black person sang it first doesn't mean that Elvis put a new spin to it. But Lieber and Stoller said, we saw him at the beginning, and James Dean had just died, and they had King Creole. That motion picture was written for James Dean. And what they did was they made it into a musical, and they gave it to Elvis. And they said, if you look at his acting in King Creole, you can see the makings of a great actor.
Yeah.
And when he came back from the army, Colonel Tom Parker, no, it was all about money. My boy's going to do what I want him to do. It's all about money. And so Elvis could have had, there's a certain respect that Elvis doesn't have, because people say that he stole black music. Hello, CB. It's good to see you again. They say he stole black music. Or he imitated black something. He was just fake, and he wasn't. He was real. He was more real than real. In fact, when you look at Michael Jackson dance, Paula Abdul choreographed everything. Well, he was a great dancer, with no doubt about it.
You know who Michael Jackson was greatly inspired by? Marcel Marceau.
Oh, and Marcel Marceau too.
Yeah.
Paula Abdul choreographed all his moves, and in his moves, you will see Elvis's moves. And he would dress up like he had like a jacket, like he was the king. And so he was kind of like falling in the footsteps of Elvis. The reason why Elvis had those high collars, there's this stupid rumor that goes around the web. The reason why he wore high collars because he thought he had a chicken neck. Not true. All through the 50s, all through the 60s, he didn't wear those high collars. It wasn't the
Well,
style.
the 70s was just the period of high collars. So
Yeah.
I think that everybody at that time was wearing collars like that. But if you look at one of the things that I think is really amazing is if you look at the comeback special, and Elvis comes out and he's wearing what's basically biker leathers, and just the sound of those women, and they just lose it. And it's like you realize like that's somebody that's at the top of their game, regardless of being out for a while. Everybody,
I know, being in all these
relevant anymore,
movies.
and he just comes out and he owns it, and
that
they didn't know what to think because they just lost their minds. And I know that my mom and my neighbor, my aunt, they went to one of his, I guess it was towards the very end of his life, actually, probably the late 70s. They went to one of his last concerts here in Greensboro. And just my mom said for the first 5 songs, they couldn't hear him because there was so much screaming. I mean, and that for something like that, that's how you know it's an icon.
What year was it? What year did they go?
I think it was like in 76, 75 or 76. Maybe it's around 77.
It's like the last 2 years of his life. He went long. It didn't take him long to die after he started to blow it up. That wasn't.
Yeah, but see, and that's what I was gonna say is that Mom said that when she saw him, it wasn't like she had remembered growing up that he was heavily bloated. Sometimes he would just, sort of like stars do today, where they do the medleys instead of singing the full song. He would only do snippets, but he still had this power and this energy that she still talks about because, she was truly a fan and still is. But she said that it was also in a way sad because she could just tell his heart was broken. He, I think probably, the drugs and everything cumulatively and just the loss, like I said, I think for me, that's just something that I came away with about his life is that his mom was everything to him. And when she died, he spent the rest of his life trying to make up for his mom. And so I think all the idiosyncrasies of the weirdness comes from him, that pain, that deep, unbelievable pain of losing the first relationship that he ever had in his life. And he never recovered from it.
Read these books. This guy, Peter Grelnick, this book 1 and book 2. Last Train to Memphis and Careless Love. In it, you find out something very interesting about Elvis and his mother. Elvis's mother always had a premonition that something bad was going to happen to Elvis. And because he was a twin and his brother Jaron was stillborn, the mother became overprotective. And in fact, to the point where she was abusive and controlling. So Elvis is a product of abuse and control. That's why he could not have a woman around, because a woman, for some reason, he needed that female protection around him at all times. Though at the same time, he didn't go around sleeping with everyone. People don't. It's a shocker to a lot of people. But he was
that changed.
They say that actually it never did. Peter Grelnick, if you even look online and you ask why did Elvis not have sex? Why did he had the men get women for him, but he said, take their shoes off, make sure they're clean and they're pretty. Take their shoes off.
Oh, I meant like the Anne Margaret, the things like that. That's what I was talking about. Like
Anne Margaret, he was really in love with, except he had promised, and Elvis was a man of his word. Elvis didn't drink because Jesus said in the Bible, do not take strong drink. So he never drank. Too bad he didn't say, don't take drugs from your doctor. Don't take prescriptions. We'd still be alive today. Forget what now I forget what I was getting. He said to take the shoes off to make sure their feet were clean. And the most he would ever do was suck their toes. He was, they say, he was a germaphobe.
He was not a germaphobe. He was definitely not a germaphobe.
I mean, if you're kissing all these women on stage, you're not a germaphobe. But Priscilla Presley, because she's kind of nutty, and you talk to her, she always gives a different story. She goes, Me Too movement comes along. All of a sudden, I felt controlled. Or Elvis, I was so young, I felt control. And these lips are popping out of her face. You know, it's like you felt control. He wanted me to have hair like his. That's why my hair was dark and it was bouffant. Well, you want to know something, sweetie pie? When you were young, you had your hair was curly and it was the style of the 50s, right? And then when you grew older and you married Elvis, your hair had this bouffant style. That was the style at the time. And then when it was the 70s and natural hair, natural color, and just not forming or anything with your hair was like that too. You did what the style of the times. You weren't doing what Elvis was telling you to do. You're lying your ass off because you want to make it look like you suffered this whole Me Too movement. Me Too movement, and then you took she wasn't even willed. She wasn't willed Graceland. Lisa Marie was. What's her face? Crazy brainwashy Priscilla got brainwashed by Scientology. Scientology was knocking at the door of Elvis. Scientology was trying because they wanted to get the top of the line celebrity, and they gave them his books and tried to recruit him. And he said he read their books, and he said I read their books, but it sounds good, but there's no God underneath it. There's no God here. And she left him, had an affair with her karate instructor, and she joined Scientology. She's the one who left him, and he said, "I'll get the divorce. I'll blame it on me. I wasn't." He made it up. He was never unfaithful to her, ever. It was her. It was all her, but he wanted to make her look good and to keep her nice. She was a virgin when she was married to him, and he promised the father that he would marry her. Otherwise, he would have married Anne Margaret. He was really in love with Anne Margaret. That's his true love, and he probably would have still been alive today if he married Anne Margaret. But Elvis was a man of his word, and so he dies, and she takes over Graceland and makes all this money for Scientology. It becomes a theme park practically. And it's just an ever exploding. And Elvis was giving so much away. Everything is plain Graceland. If you added everything up, was $1 million, which isn't much if you were including real estate and a plane and cars and horses and stuff like that. He'd given away so much, and Colonel Parker had taken so much from him. So I wonder how much Scientology and the brainwashing played a part in the death of Elvis. And somehow Priscilla takes over Graceland and makes all this money and gets all these plastic surgeries. I wonder, I really wonder about that they say, what killed Elvis? Well, she left him. Then all of a sudden, Elvis starts taking all these drugs. He bloats up. And it's only the last 2 years of his life. Boom, very quickly, then he's dead. Because people take drugs, those hippies in the 60s, Rob, the hippies who took all the drugs, and the kids in the streets today, they're taking all the drugs and stuff like that. Well, they take drugs for years and years and years. Their parents took the drugs, and then they took the drugs because the parents took the drugs, and they took drugs for years, and they lived for
a lot of drugs.
Long time taking all these drugs, right? Why did Elvis, in 2 years, he went from the most gorgeous man in the world, and in 2 years' time, he bloated up and died? Why did these drugs kill him this fast? It's almost nobody stops and asks that question. Why that happened? We know why Janis Joplin died. She was actually getting off heroin, and she was clean, and she basically needed something to help her sleep. She was engaged to some guy, and she tried to get a hold of him, and then she realized he was he had gone out for the night. He wasn't really into her, and she was trying to get married. She just wanted to get married and have a family like her parents did. She wanted to be just a regular person. And everybody called her ugly. All the guys called her ugly. And she just
Mhm.
wanted to get married and have a family. That's all she wanted. And so she called her dealer, and he came by. And I guess you're supposed to take, the dose is 0.3 milligrams of heroin. And he sold her, instead of 0.3, 50. She didn't realize she was taking 50. So once that heroin hit her system and went right to her brain, it killed her. She would have lived long if she had only been, and 8 other people that night died in the city. I think it's San Francisco, died in the city. This same dealer did this to 8 other people, 9 people in total. She would have still have been alive, even though she did take drugs. It usually takes years for someone to die, even of drugs and even of drinking. This is like Larry Hagman. He's a big alcoholic. I think he did some drugs too, but his liver gave out. But it was in his 80s, and it took years for that to happen. Why in 2 years would Elvis had gone from perfection? We saw him; he was perfect. Aloha from Hawaii, he was perfect. There wasn't a bit of bloat on him. And he was, mentally, he was completely there. And then all of a sudden, he's all drugged up. If he was taking these drugs for years and years and years like that, he would have been like at the end, like he was kind of forgetting people's names, forgetting the words to songs. He was never like that before. That was just the last 2 years of his life. He never went on stage in a fog. Nobody knew Elvis in a fog. He never was like that. He was given something he had never been taken before. I would just wonder who gave it to him. Priscilla left. She joined Scientology, and then she left Elvis. She joined Scientology. Who wanted Elvis? Scientology, because he was, the bigger the name you get, then you get all the other big names, and then you make all the money. They got Priscilla. She left Elvis, and then Elvis dies 2 years later.
Yeah, I think too, though,
It's weird.
His life had changed quite a bit, with his schedule, with the way that he was eating. He wasn't healthy.
He ate the same way he always ate. He always ate a poor. They say that he would take everybody out to dinner. Well, he would take everybody out to dinner, and he just wanted the food his mother cooked. That's the same food he grew up with. He ate the same food. That's why the food hadn't changed either. We think, oh, he must have been eating cheeseburgers all day, or the fried sandwiches with peanut butter and bananas. Elvis, he would take everyone out to eat. They would get the filet mignon, the finest, most expensive food, and you'd eat it. They'd eat it. And Elvis just wanted simple, plain Southern cooking. That's all he wanted to.
While we're on that side tangent, though, of Elvis's death, one of the things I think that really is interesting is the number of theories, conspiracy theories that have spread. And I don't want to say that because I hate that word, as Rob knows. I hate the word conspiracy because sometimes it proves to be true. The theories that have grown up around his death of the gardener. I think it's Mike. I can't think of his name, but there's a preacher that I tell you sounds just like Elvis, that and looks a lot like him as well.
That doesn't surprise me. Now, add something to that. Just remind me, there was an interview, or somebody had. I think it was Joe Esposito wrote it. He said that. He wrote a book about Elvis, and it was featured in Reader's Digest. Like a snippet of the book was featured. And he said that Elvis was sitting there, was about to go on. He said, Joe, I want to leave this life of musicians and rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be a monk. I want to join a monastery and just pray to God for the rest of my life.
Yep. And that's why I was bringing that up, because he told so many people around him at the time, his guitarist and some of his band members, that he just wanted to put it all down because he felt like he needed to devote his life to the Lord. And he wasn't sure how he could do that. He said, I don't think my fans are going to follow me on my next step. and they said that line still haunted them to this day. They were like, what does he mean? And they didn't know if it meant that he, you know, they kept asking him, you know, are you okay? Is everything all right? He said, well, I just don't think my fans are going to follow me where I'm going next. And they said that at the time he was working on a lot of further gospel work, and that he wanted to devote himself further to that, but that he wasn't sure that people were going to like it. And that's what they assumed that he meant. But I think it, you know, and I'm not, you know, I'm one of those people who tends to be pretty skeptical about things, but even I kind of was like listening to that man sing, and I was like, man, it really does sound a lot like Elvis. And this guy's very devoted in the church, and a lot of people said that they feel that he really is Elvis, that he just went into hiding, which, you know, I don't want to cheapen Elvis's life by bringing it up. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I think that Elvis's eyes were on God towards the end of his life.
That would make sense.
Yeah,
to me.
I mean, his eyes were.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me, knowing Elvis.
I just wonder sometimes, like, how do you step away from all of that? That's something.
Yeah, that's right. How do you unbe Elvis?
Well, Little Richard did that 15 years or 20 years before, didn't he?
Yeah.
Richard, he became later on. He became up.
No, that was 1959. At the height of his fame, he stepped away to become a preacher.
Oh, at the height of his fame, he did that. I know he became a preacher. I didn't know when he became.
Yeah, but he never really. When he came back, obviously the ground had shifted under his feet. So, but none of the 50s rockers really stayed relevant in the 60s.
You know what happened? Do you know what happens? If you read the history of rock and roll, written a while ago, compiled all this stuff. There's a song, I think you better go now. There was a black girls group that sang it, put it out. I think you better go now. And the second they put out, like the second the song is put out, another artist will grab it right away and record it before anybody else hears it. And what happened was, you blame Elvis for everything. Well, what Elvis really did was he opened up the world of rhythm and blues, gospel and rhythm and blues, to a whole new generation of people, a whole new race, many races of people. It wasn't confined to the South or these African Americans. He opened it to the world. And what happened was these young kids started, I want to be like Elvis. Look at him. They started to research. They started to go back, like Janis Joplin went back. She loved Big Mama Woolidge. Bessie Smith was somebody that Janis Joplin loved, and that's way back in the 20s. They went back and they researched all this blues music that nobody had ever heard, and this sound. And so what happened in the 60s? Elvis opened the door to everybody. Well, this is hip. This is sexy. This is cool. This is a new kind of music. And they learned about it, and then they started writing their own songs based on the blues beat. Yeah. And what's the 60s? It's nothing but a repackaged version of the blues, of rhythm and blues. That's what the 60s, with a lot of drugs.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I guess that's what I meant by gateway. Elvis was a gateway for a lot of people to, and someone who made people feel brave enough to step out of their own box. And I think that's the way, you know, when Bowie and the Beatles, when they mention him, what they're trying to say is that they weren't sure what their identity was or what it was they wanted to do. But when the minute they saw him pick up a guitar, they knew right away that this is what I want to do with my life, you know? And I think that love of music, it can come from anywhere, but at the same time, you look at the people that you emulate, you look at what influenced them, and then you form a love. You perhaps sometimes in some cases with people, they form a greater love for the person that got them in the door. You know, they may find a greater love for what influenced them initially. And I think that all these, and that's what I meant earlier about the Howlin' Wolf reference, was that the minute that, Robert Plant dropped that, and Jimmy Page said that, suddenly these kids that love Led Zeppelin are going to the record stores trying to find these records, and probably not having much luck at that time and point, because there just wasn't the respect paid to those artists. They didn't care about their records, even though these were national treasures, international treasures, really, Howlin' Wolf. And yet now it gives them some, people the ability to go back and say, this is important. This music is what influenced me. Maybe you should check it out too. And so the artists do that all the time, but now it's even more important because it allows people to open up and expand their minds and expand their horizons. And like you said, it influences future artists to come up with their own voice and their own ideas of what I want to be based on those colors and those influences that I feel in my music. And I think that's something that all artists now, some of them look back at like what their influences were, and the kids are like, well, what influenced you? And so suddenly it turns them onto a whole nother level of music that they had never, experienced before.
Yeah. And when you mix the blues and the drugs, then you got
she will
the
go
wildness
on for 5
of
minutes.
But then the psychedelic drugs came in that the young folk had never had before. And they were seeing, fishes swimming in the barrels,
Well, like one of the things, like I talked to Rob tonight about, like with me, which I find hysterically funny, is that sometimes things are born out of what could be called disrespect. Like, for example, a lot of the electronic music of the 90s was born out of, believe it or not, all of our records, disco records and blues records, everything getting shipped to England, just cut rate, because they were trying to find some market to dump them in. So the kids over there got those records and they fell deeply in love with them, and they were able to make grooves with them and put them on, repeat. So the DJs over there just made masterpieces out of them. And then we over here in England suddenly, here in America suddenly became, enamored with, with house and all the other, or not house, but let me back up there, with drum and bass and things like that. And drum and bass was literally based off of the records that we had shipped over there at cut rate. And so all these kids are getting into it and loving it, not realizing these records were probably in their local record store. And it's just funny because it literally grew out of the record company not having enough respect for these artists and just saying, we need to get rid of all of these archives that we have and just dump them somewhere. So they send them to England, where the DJs over there actually use them in their work. And then suddenly kids were like, well, what is this song based on? And what parts is it made out of? So they're like, oh, well, it's, the drum from this and the snare from that, it's from this soundtrack. And so they go, and so they had this appreciation for these 70s blaxploitation films. They had these appreciation for, all these artists that otherwise they would not have cared for in the slightest, suddenly, because now that's what's cool. And it's just I told Rob it was just the most bizarre thing watching that occur, because I would live.
Hello.
Oh.
So I know this song, so sorry.
Yeah, you broke up there, but yeah. What's the most?
Anyway, rant over. Sorry about that.
What's the most?
Yeah. Well, all I was trying to say was just that it.
Oh.
I was just trying to say that I think it's just funny that now we're finding that same thing happen with other artists where I mentioned Bruno Mars earlier. It's like any of us who grew up in the 80s knew right away, like that's the Minneapolis sound. We knew right away, like when it dropped, we're like, we started giggling with each other because we're like, oh great, but he did it with love. He did it with deepest love in his heart, and then when people would ask him, he would say, well, you need to check out, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. You need to check out, you need to check out Prince. He was very loving and respectful of it. And that's what I'm trying to say is that, Elvis in that way was like a gateway drug for so many artists to I hate using that term, sorry, gateway, but he was the gateway for a lot of artists to discover that love within themselves. And they were saying, well, what influenced Elvis? What influenced me? And then they share those influences with the kids, and they help perpetuate that love of that music and keeping it alive. And expanding those audiences for those artists. And it's just that's what music is missing right now, is that kind of love and respect for actual music, pure music, you know? So I think that they're going to get back to that.
Well, Beyonce is a musical genius. What can I say? you know, just keeps
well, we all
putting
can't be
hit
musical
after
geniuses
hit.
like
I don't know
Rob,
who
so.
does it.
Who runs the world, girls? Who runs the world, girls? Who runs the world, girls?
I was saying that what happened when all of a sudden in the 50s you heard a lot of African American groups. In fact, those groups were actually put together by white men, basically, and the songs were written by white men, and they kind of like the girl bands we have. Not like we thought that, what the heck is their name? Of the first girl band that was put together. One of them married a soccer player, Spice Girls, and then the boy band. All these things put together. Well, they did that in the 50s.
Elvis and the Spice Girls.
They actually put people to. But when the 60s came along, all of a sudden, you didn't see as many black performers. What happened was the DJs, when the Beatles, see, everybody blames Elvis for stealing whatever, which he didn't steal a damn thing. That's where he grew up. That's what the people that he came from, that's the way they moved. That's who he is. The DJs, when the Beatles came over, the DJs stopped playing American music. They stopped playing these black African American groups. Then they called them black. Now, African American, they stopped playing them and only played British groups because the Beatles were so big. It was the DJs, it was the white DJs, whatever, for money, whatever. It was the popular thing. It was the Beatles that hurt black music more. And it was like, so the English groups came over here, and then Jimi Hendrix went over to England to get heard for anybody to hear. But so it wasn't Elvis that hurt. Elvis helped. All of a sudden, this whole music was never the same. When the 60s hit, all of a sudden the sound was synthesized with rhythm and blues and drugs. I mean, it was, and the psychedelic colors and stuff, because they were seeing the colors because they were taking so much drugs. And so they created this whole new sound, and it was because Elvis opened the door. I remember when I was younger and I first heard the song The Road. I thought, wow, this is a beautifully sad song. And my mother told me it's loosely based on Janis Joplin's life. And so what do? I go learn about Janis Joplin. And then I learn about who were her influences. And that's why I learned all about Bessie Smith and Big Mama Willa Mae Thornton. I did the same thing as the kids in the 60s did, or the musicians in the 60s. There were teens probably in the 50s with Elvis, who opened the door. That's what they did. They went back and they got this music. And I wanted to know where she got her influences from. And so I learned, that's all I did. I was learning about jazz and blues. And my mother was really she used to go to Harlem all the time. She'd go to the South all the time on the train. On her days off, she would get the train with her girlfriend and stay spending weekends in Harlem in the South, because she wanted to soak up the music and then go to church on Sunday. So that's where she was, she had that. And I got my influence on my own. Like I started, because of the song The Rose, I went my way down and I found Janis Joplin. Then I found the blues singers that way. But that's, I mean, it's really a sad thing that somehow you blame the guy, and the guy who actually is responsible for the civil rights movement, because it got the two groups, the black teenagers and the white teenagers, didn't want to be segregated anymore. It pissed them off, and they said that's enough, and they hooked onto the whole.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of times too, it's the kids always. You know, I think that a lot of people at large, the movement grew out of the people's hearts that at some point you have to look at the evil that there is when someone can't drink at the same water fountain as you, that, you know, entire generations of kids don't know how to swim because they're not allowed in public pools, and no one is willing to teach them. They literally, you will not refuse to teach them. They are busts. You know, I mean, you know, when you think about all the things that occurred in such a short period of time, and the things that we're undergoing right now, it's not that shocking when you consider the fact that history is no longer taught accurately sometimes in schools, and that kids aren't made aware of the sacrifices that people made for the civil rights movement, and the things that they had to do. And a lot of people, and I think the problem is that it gets twisted, and they don't understand like how brave you really had to be in the South to get on a bus like Rosa Parks, or you had to, and you know, don't want to sound like I'm trying to get radical on an Elvis thing, but what I'm trying to say is, think about in the middle of all of that, you drop rock and roll, and you drop, you know, something that literally puts up a wall between kids and their parents, between what came before and what is happening now.
Well, they didn't want them listening to that kind of music. It brought and I'm sure you've heard the clip, our teenagers, our children, to the level of is what they said.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And it's like, but really, again, it's just that hatred. And the kids just said, you know what? No, I don't want that for my life. I don't want that. They just wanted to enjoy the music.
They just wanted to get together and enjoy it together.
Be together. It'd be young.
No longer, you could see each other as human beings, less skin color and more. We're human beings who are enjoying the same things. You know, there's nothing, the color, what is the color of the skin?
Well, I think, like, one of the things that's so funny is that the world was in such a state of upheaval. Like, I think about, a lot of people say this, but I think about Marvin Gaye, like what's going on, because Marvin, he said that I put away my sexual fantasies, and I wanted to write a song about what my brother was going through, what the people down the street are going through, because he said I could not continue. And I think a lot of artists at that time were like at that point, you know, and you mentioned Dylan earlier, they were just like, you know, we're getting ready to send kids overseas to die in another war after Korea, and here we are going into Vietnam, and these kids like you know, they can't get a beer, they can't get, you know, things legally in the States, but yet they're expected to die for their country. And then there's just all this upheaval at one time. And so you literally go from the turbulence of the tail end of the 50s into the 60s, and it's just like this massive cauldron, you know, that was getting ready to explode. And so you throw Elvis in there and rock and roll, it's like, it's something that like I said, it was just one of those lightning in a bottle kind of deals where, and like, Elvis just somehow got the tail end of that, because he, you know, he got blamed for a lot of things that he didn't intend to happen. It was just, you know, he was just riding that wave that everybody was riding, you know, and Jim Morrison, Mama Cass, everybody at that point.
Well, they were riding the wave. Elvis started the wave. Nobody.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is, I guess that as artists, it was just such a time of
even Springsteen said that he was the one who took the genie out of the bottle, and there was no putting that genie back in the bottle.
And I mean, that's what I mean. It was like the old way of living, you know,
but
America, and then new America.
There was a cause to fight for. Now they're fighting for prison. It's the opposite. You had too much freedom. Now you want communism. Yeah. It's like, what the hell? What are you fighting for now? Like, you're making a new race. Like racism, it's Marxism. I mean, it's like, it's like there were people who really fought to end racism. Yes. They really, and they died with their lives, from the Civil War to the almost 5,000 people who were lynched in the South. 1/3 were white Republicans down there trying to help the freed slaves. White Republicans, 1/3 of them. So it's not it's a class system, and it's a party. It's the Democrat Party oppressing the idea of freedom. You know, all these cities are run by Democrats.
Yeah, I will go ahead and say it like this: that communism is quite anti-ethical to rock and roll. Rock and roll and freedom go hand in hand. Capitalism and rock and roll go hand in hand. Rock and roll is everything that.
But they don't want church. They don't want God either.
Yeah.
If you want the short byline of America, it's rock and roll.
Well, I think nowadays they're trying to play groups against each other in their own kind of bid for power. Now, this is a discussion that me and David have had. And I'm sure you might have seen, Rick and Selena. It was a big thing on the kind of conservative YouTube.
Let's try to be fair.
It was a big thing on conservative YouTube about this talk show host, Lily Singh, who made a big to-do about the fact that she was the first Indian bisexual woman of color to have her own talk show at 1:30 in the morning. And this was her entire thing. And that's risible in and of itself, but when you actually see her act, it is so accusatory. She's saying, "Oh boy, I bet you people in Kansas don't like the fact that me, a bisexual woman of color, has her own TV show at 1:30 in the morning."
If you're amusing or entertaining, I don't care about any of that.
Yeah. She was accused.
And I guess that's what I was trying to say earlier. It's like our parents were doing this stuff way before we ever even thought about it.
This is my point. Okay, so it's a big thing. You have your own TV show at 1:30 in the morning. And boy, that's a way to be a pioneer. Nat King Cole.
Tom Snyder.
Nat King Cole had a primetime variety show literally 16 years ago. And you were pioneering by having a TV show at 1:30 in the morning? No, Nat King Cole.
Everybody watched Nat King Cole.
Yeah.
Come on. Who wouldn't?
That's what
gorgeous. It was amazing. I love it, man.
Well,
I think Nat King Cole was Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
Because he was right there in people's living rooms. And he used art and beauty and music to bring people together.
Did y'all ever hear the story about Michelle Nicholson?
He didn't accuse his audience of being racist. Yeah, there was a lot of racism in America.
No, it's like there's more people are not racist. I mean, the fact that Abraham Lincoln got elected to end slavery, and he was called our first Africano president because he was a Melungeon. The fact that you can go all the way back that far, and more people voted for him, and he got 0 votes in the South because they wanted to keep slavery, says that the majority of the country, is not racist. The fact that Obama got elected twice on a white majority says it is not racist. The reason why Nixon won in the South is because as the amount of Republicans went up and the Democrats went down in quantity, people moved over and realized and showed whatever, the racism went down at the same time. Because so racism went down as the amount of Dixiecrats went down, and the Republican he won the industrial South. He won.
Yeah, it's like when you ask people, if you ask kids nowadays, do they know how the Republican Party started? They don't have a clue. They have no clue whatsoever. And I'm not saying that you necessarily have to embrace the Republican Party or anything like that. I'm just asking a simple question of them. Do you know what it represented and who started it? And they don't have the understanding and it's been so reversed. They've done such a good job of reversing.
I know. It's just like, or they switched hats. Like all the Democrats were there sitting there with their hoods and their, dunce caps on, and then the Republicans were sitting there in their bowlers, and they said, "Hey, let's all switch hats."
The great switcheroo.
That's how it happened. Is that how all of a sudden?
They still.
Oh, no, I'm going to Klan meeting. Hey, honey, I never went to one of these Klan meetings before, but I guess because I'm wearing this hood, I gotta go to a Klan meeting, and now I have blacks.
but even to the point, it even takes away from those originally freed slaves who were brave enough during that period to step up and become represented. I mean, it takes to fight for freedom. I mean, it takes so much away from
Yeah,
them
I
and their
know
history.
that's
Yeah, oh, I know you do. And I'm just saying, but
real
it's
racism.
I find that like just mind-boggling. That they don't even know the history of like how the party was even formed. I mean,
They
it's just
don't.
amazing.
It's like they want to. It's almost like to me they want to recreate it because the shoes that the legend of Martin Luther King and the Kennedys, the legend is so big that you have to destroy them, and then the slaves like Frederick Douglass, who freed himself, and Booker T. Washington and George Washington Carver, who came from out of slavery and started Tuskegee University. They came from the hardest, most miserable, impossible, oppressive conditions, and they started a university. I mean, so how can anyone say, oh, it's because the white people are still oppressing you? It's the system. Well, they were oppressed for how many years? Generation upon generation upon generation, they were oppressed. And they came out victorious. And Booker T. Washington said, forget the past. Don't make yourself a victim. Get rid of the victimhood. Go forward.
What are you going to do for the future? And then I think that's the thing is like people don't seem to understand what made Martin Luther King Jr. so amazing as a human being. I mean, yes, he, like all humans, we all have our flaws, and they want to point those flaws out every time they want to tear the man down. But what he did was he was trying to make bridges and literally transform this world as we know it. And he succeeded on levels that he'll never know. And he opened up minds to a way of thinking that didn't exist before. And he didn't look to the past as something that to be, bound to, something that is something that we have to just all, keep bringing it back to the past and let's just blame everyone for everything. No, it was more on what roads can we build together for the future, our shared future. And there's nothing more profound than that. And there's nothing more beautiful than that. And I just hate watching that get torn down. I mean, it's beyond upsetting. And when people twist it and bend it and go all Spike Lee with it, I'll throw his name out there, because it's like, I never forget when I was watching the previous for Malcolm X, and one of the things that they made a point of pointing out, Dr. King's indiscrepancies with women, and that, he's so much better. Yeah, but the man transformed this world. That man started literally something that everyone can build upon for a future, a shared future. Try that during that time period. Let me know how brave you are. That was beyond brave. That it's one of the most powerful things we've ever witnessed as a human being, in humanity, what he did. And people try to tear that down. And for me, I can't even fathom.
They want to take it away from him. They want to say racism still exists. So they want to break everything. Racism, it's worse now than it ever. Oh, after we voted in the first African-American president in twice, now it's worse.
Right. And that's my point. Is like,
they want to
if it was such a profound,
that's the only way they can feel
misstep
is to destroy him and break the country.
And then how is it that he helped transform this country and become, literally a shared dream? And I'm telling you, I know it's like they always call it, we're this, the sleepers, but I really think, because all of our families are like I said earlier, we're, I know people hate that word, but it's the truth. We're mixed. We're all different colors, races, creeds. We're just laughing at them. I mean, deeply inside, we're all united, and we all know that there is a better future together. And we just look at this nonsense like, why in the hell are we trying to kill each other? It's ridiculous, because it's just, and like you said earlier, it's the Marxist. It's the craziness of the Marxists who just want to tear this country down.
There are crazy people out there, and the thing is, they're paying the people who are crazy.
Yeah.
The people who are over the edge. I mean,
the George Soroses of the world.
There are people who, God, I thought were normal. and they want the rioters to win. They go, oh, you've got a degree and you're a psychologist and you got your degree in philosophy or something or other, and you're highly educated. And, what?
You're referring, I think, to someone in particular. But
yeah, and it's like, why? What have you become? You were going, last time I saw you years ago, you were moving towards becoming a shaman, and now you want these rioters to win. You want everything just to get Trump out of office. Everything is to get Trump out of office. Can't you know what? Even if Trump had 4 more years in office, that's it. He can't run anymore. He only has. You already ruined his last 4 years. You. It's like. The stuff he accomplished in the time he was in there with the Mueller investigation, and then the impeachment, and then the constant, he's a racist. And every time you say that, people get angry and they might hurt him and his family. You don't do that. Oh, that's why they have the plays in the park, the Shakespeare play in the park with he's Julius Caesar and or the Kathy Griffith with that. You used to not be able to do that without having the Secret Service come to your door, but it's okay.
This is the father.
It's permissible to hate and kill. Yes. In fact, you'll be a hero if you do.
This is don't forget the New York Times assassination porn contest. The New York Times had a contest about who could write the best story about assassinating the president. But yeah, this is the father of a 12-year-old boy we're talking about. The father of a
then I would like to flash that back to the period that we've been talking about of the 60s, where a president actually and his brother were actually, Jack and Robert, were actually murdered. And, and during a period that was so tumultuous, like there are people to this day who still are trying to recover from that horrible events, and I love the kids that are so worried about all the things that they have. When I would talk to my parents about the Bay of Pigs or the Cuban Missile Crisis, or my dad having to go over and serve. I find it hysterically funny because I'm just like, I get that there's a lot of stress and trouble in the world, but we've gotten through it before. I mean, as I say to Rob a lot of times online, it's like, it's funny to me that people think that the world's ending right now. The world has been ending for decades since I've been growing up. I mean, and only the Lord knows when the world's going to end. But here's the thing. When we're at the brink, you might be the person that can bring us back from it. You might be the person that comes up with, the salve that's going to dissolve the sore. You just have to be positive and not think. I mean, when we were growing up, it's like we were worried that, we were going to be bombed out, by the Soviet Union. And now it's, the Soviet Union is not even treated as a threat. Our big threat now is China and Korea. And
Trump got elected. Yeah. Trump.
And so it's just, the thing is that there's always going to be a big bad out there in the world, but it's like, what do you do when you wake up in the morning? What are you going to do about it? And I think these kids have a lot of misdirected energy, and like, Rob and I had our conversation a while back. He was nice enough to put me on the show,
Robin, you had a conversation and you never invited me.
Right. Okay. Well, I just met you tonight, so you're wonderful. But no, okay. One of the things that we talked about at the time was that, that these kids nowadays have a lot of misdirected energy, and so there are parties out there who use that energy in a negative way, and they're just not getting the direction that they needed. And there's others who are just plain evil. I mean, there's just kids out there who are soulless, but there's a couple out there, good apples. They're just misguided, and they haven't been taught history properly. They haven't been taught where they come from. They haven't been taught what we've gone through as a nation, the things that we face, the things that we've overcome. They haven't been taught who God is. They don't have any civics. They don't have any respect for this country. It's no wonder that they're doing the things that they're doing. So for them, I think they're worth saving. But for the rest of them, it's like you said, they're just hardcore Marxists who want to destroy us all.
I think they're insane. I think that there's
a lot of people that are having a lot of issues.
People just said that President Trump's younger brother just passed away.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
That was actually earlier. Somebody mentioned that earlier.
Oh, he did? Okay. Yeah. So you're good with your eyes. You're reading everything.
Well,
get your eyes.
That's the thing. I had to put the candle out because I would have lit my hair on fire.
I know.
Don't
And
do it.
about all this, you mentioned the '68 comeback special, which was amazing. And at the end of that special, that song that was supposed to be a Christmas show, and that song, the last song, was supposed to be a Christmas song, and they changed it to a song about Martin Luther King, and used some of the words from his speeches in If I Can Dream. And he comes out in the white suit, and the stage is dark with just Elvis. And they said when he recorded it in the studio, they recorded in the studio, except they just recorded the sound. They should have recorded the visuals. They made a mistake. And he was kind of like, they kind of mistranslated. The director had never seen Elvis perform before. And Elvis sometimes when he used to sing when he was young, he used to take the microphone and he would like shimmy down to his knees and kind of like, and then get up again and like part of, because he's really into it. He's really grinding that song out. And that's a part of his style. And so when he saw him sing the song, If I Could Dream, Elvis was so into it and in so much pain. Steve Binder described it as he was almost in the fetal position. Well, he's not curled up on his side on the floor trying to sing. He would not be able to sing a song. He was probably on his knees singing, but he had to be upright. Otherwise, the sound would not come out. But that's how they said if he had only filmed that was so intense and was so powerful. And it was about Martin Luther King, and also the pain of Bobby Kennedy getting killed, obviously in the same year, and then Martin Luther King getting killed. There's
those songs that
before Bobby
also
got
do that.
killed, because Bobby announced that Martin Luther King was killed. I remember when Bobby said that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like, imagine living during that time. I mean,
I remember seeing a film of it.
Yeah, it was terrifying for everyone because, the president of the United States has been assassinated. So, and no one knew who, no one knew why.
If the president is killed, there's no hope for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
He was walking into death. How about that?
But I mean, and all the things that everyone was facing during that time period. I mean, people were still being called up for active duty. The world's on fire, it seems like. So imagine living in that
throwing
world,
these lives away for the Gulf of Tonkin for nothing. You're throwing these young boys' lives away for nothing.
Yeah, and not only that, who's getting conscripted during that period? So
you're throwing this country away right now for nothing.
It's just it's just a period of upheaval, and it was probably. I mean, you'd think the riots now are about the Watts riots. The first time I ever saw footage of the Watts riots when I was younger, I honestly thought it was a war zone. I didn't know, and
they say that these riots
after it was just.
These like
Detroit, and I'm not comparing that to for those same reasons. I'm just saying what I'm saying is that that's how much of an upheaval was kind of occurring in that period, and it was this country was tearing itself apart on many levels. I mean, and when you are told that you can't go in a bathroom and no one will allow you to go to a certain hospital, so you're dying and you drive to the nearest hospital and you're told, I'm sorry, we don't accept your kind here. That's not acceptable. And I think the kids at that time were like, this is unacceptable. This is not a world that we want to live in. And
I mean,
the changes started occurring.
That was a real problem.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, imagine if you have someone you got hurt in an auto accident and you're not allowed to go to a hospital because you're the wrong. That's not acceptable. It's never acceptable. But that's the world that we lived in.
You know what? Why don't they go to these countries? There's walkfree.org is you could check it out. I know about 7 years ago they said there's 43 million slaves in the world today right now, and about 7 million in Africa alone. Why don't they go to these countries and protest slavery, get rid of slavery? Well, why aren't they going over there? Why here, destroying this country?
Yeah, or not to mention the amount of humans that are being trafficked out of the United States. A lot of people don't realize that
the Democrat Party loves it.
Traffic in the world come from the United States. They're being taken off of our streets. I mean,
right. The Democrat Party is still a party of slavery. As I said it in a video a few videos ago, they're still doing it, except in a different way. But they still are the party of slavery, and they point these kids' eyes in the wrong direction. They don't see anything else, and then they tell them what they're seeing. And it's like, no, that's not.
See, here's the thing: is the majority of good people in this world, they don't want anything to do with harming another human being, but yet they're, just because you have different beliefs from someone else, suddenly you're demonized, suddenly you're made into something that you're not, and it goes inherently against your nature, and you're being told that you're this or you're told that you're that, when all of your life, all you've ever tried to do is to do good things for people. And
I know
it's turning the tide against it.
Yeah.
It's like it couldn't be more anthemic to what they're trying to do than tell you're not winning people with vinegar here. You should have tried honey, but that it's too late for that. The genie's out of the bottle, and I think they don't realize the firestorm that they've unleashed, because like I said, the kind of hatred that they're fomenting just doesn't exist. People get along, they really do, and they really try to get along.
Yeah,
that's between the Martin Luther King dream, which has been repudiated because he saw people looking past, their skin color into the content of their character. You're making a lot of noise, David, but yeah.
Oh,
but So they repudiated Martin Luther King's dream, and they've now separated us into tribes that are in a power struggle. Now, how do you achieve equality by having tribes in a power struggle? The point of a power struggle is not to achieve equality. The point of a power struggle is to win. So their entire paradigm is flawed now. But it's by design, because it's all about accruing power for themselves. It's not about racial harmony. That's been lost as an objective.
Yeah, no, it's not harmony at all whatsoever. Not even amongst human beings. We're human beings before we're anything else. Before how much help it depends on where our ancestors lived in proximity to the sun, hundreds of thousands, millions of years ago. That's all skin color is. It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
It's stupid. That's the thing, though. It's stupid, but it's easily understandable. When something is easily understandable by stupid people, it's very easy to exploit it politically. So whether it's racism or anti-racism, if you really think racism is stupid, also what's stupid is the idea that racism is the most important and decisive issue in America. That's also very stupid.
It used to be abortion, right? Now it's abortion and...
I don't even hear much about abortion anymore, honestly. But yeah, no, you would think
they dropped the whole thing. The Blasey.
Well, they forgot about those. They forgot about climate change and the brown kids in cages. I mean, they have.
The brown thing.
Yeah, but
well,
going back to Elvis, can't we all be human beings?
If you think about like what Elvis did within the ghetto, he pointed out like something that was
that Black Lives Matter now
is
ignoring. He's still ignoring.
Well, I mean, my point is like or like the message in the '80s. When you heard the message in the '80s, you knew exactly what that song was about, because if and what I love is that somehow now kids seem to think that the world drastically changed on their watch. It didn't. These same problems have been here since time immemorial. In saying that
59
it's a new age. No, it's not a new age. Nothing that you're spouting is any different from what our parents faced prior and there before them. I mean, it literally comes down to good and evil, and what you do as a human being to look at what situations exist and what are you going to do to change it. And it just goes back to that whole idea of well, now I'm here, I'm on watch, what do I do? And instead what they're deciding to do is burn cities in which their very own fellow, the denizens of their own city live in. So that's great. You burn down the mom and pop store, so now some mother can't get milk. now you burn down
They
the
say it's
service station where you
reparation.
can't get
One of
gas
them
for
kept
another like
saying
10,
it's
15
reparation.
miles out of the way. I mean, you know, it's you're not proving anything to
Yeah.
anyone by your
Yeah, the
hatred.
poor people.
You're not changing the world with love. So yeah, so let's microwave it and use hate. Maybe that'll get everybody to come on board, and that's
Do you
not
think
going to win
Tom
anybody.
Jones
So,
right here could change the world with love? Do you think it could? With their shirt and tight pants. Do you think?
that man got panties thrown at him. Holy cow!
David, I want you to be impressed
What?
by the like Wicked Felina is like a prop comedy act. She always has everything within arm's reach. It's like she pulls something out. And she never has
unlike me.
together. Look, do you have your British royalty dolls within arm's reach? Have your book of
Oh, the British. Wait. You're talking about my dolls? You're talking about my doll? You talking about my doll? See her crown? Do you see her crown? Take a look at her crown. Okay. Oh,
Yes.
She had to reach a little further for that.
That's the same crown.
Every show. See, she should have that every show. She really
See? See?
The tiara,
the same
yes.
crown. That's the scroll tiara. That's the scroll tiara. I bet you're jealous. You are envious.
Yeah, he wants a tiara.
That I have.
What he wants is a cape. I talked about a cape, so now he wants a cape.
Scroll tiara. I might just keep wearing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, looks
it's pretty good. Yeah, why not? Hey, hey, what if I ruled the world? Things would be different. Things would be very.
This is where
Jordan
Peterson would say, "Think again, Bucko." Yeah.
Well, I think I would put an end to these riots. That's for sure, and I would give them history class with film footage and photos and witnesses, anything. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. That public education is
not the revisionist history of Howard Zinn here. The revisionist history of Howard Zinn.
Well, the New York Times got like 80 different public school teachers to teach the 1619 project.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's bad.
No, it's a lie. Even they've admitted it's a lie. They say it's a lie, but they're why are they teaching it?
To sow division among the populace.
That should be illegal. It really should be illegal because Obama signed this guy's curriculum. He signed it into law. So why doesn't Trump just make an executive order and destroy?
Well, what's really surprising is that it's in school systems in like Texas. You think that Texas is red state America, but yeah.
They say in 5 years or less than 5 years now, the Mexican.
Well, that's what
Mexican immigrants will be voting age, and that's it. The state turns blue.
Well, don't forget all the people that are exodusing from, or what is the
California,
plural of exodus? Leaving California and New York now. So they're all going to other states. So, but they, and what was the California? That California is wanting to initiate a law where you have to pay taxes 10 years after you leave. What world do we live in where that's actually?
It is in America. I say wall California off. We don't need it anymore. Let it go. Just let it go.
That state used to be so hardcore red sometimes. I mean, it's like now.
I know Reagan won it twice.
We're in bizarre world now.
Twice. Let's see, was it when when he ran against Carter, the only blue was the dot of Washington, D.C. and Georgia. And then when Mondale ran against him, it was the dot of Washington, D.C. and Minnesota. But otherwise, the entire country was red. That was amazing. In fact, did you ever watch the replay of that? I mean, that is the quickest election I've even the guys, the commentators. Well, this is over with. They start the thing, they start broadcasting, and they go, this is over with here. Well, what are you gonna?
That's what I tell people. Just live through the 70s under Carter. You'll understand why it happened. Yeah, I mean it just couldn't have been worse if they tried. I mean, it was just one of the worst periods of this country. And the Iranian hostage deal that ended like almost the day after Reagan came to office.
He put his hand on the Bible and swore the oath, and they let him go.
Yeah, because they knew he would light them up if they didn't. So there wasn't going to be any of this helicopters in the desert and during a sandstorm wrecking, and it wasn't their fault. I'm just saying it was just a debacle all around with him. And so when Reagan came into office, and people gave him a lot of crap for being an actor, but the thing is he was very authoritative on camera. So he told him, let him go, or otherse
he was very patriotic.
They were let go right away. So
Robert Freed says he's leaving, but he says, I live in California. Nixon and Reagan originally won elections in California. Nixon and Reagan were from California. So
yeah, but a Republican from California today couldn't win California. That's its
yeah, I mean, I remember all the bedtime for Biden.
The entire country was voting for Reagan.
Yeah, but the thing is, he became a very authoritative figure, and he ruled. And I say rule because that's technically all presidents rule to some effect, but he laid down the law and just said, we're not going to have this anymore. And I think that's what we see right now with President Trump a lot, and people get irritated because they haven't had a real leader for so long. So, yeah.
I think sometimes people who are out of control respect you more when you do lay down the law hard. It's like they respect that. There's something about it. It's like if you let them walk all over you, they will walk all over you. That old saying.
Yes, which is why the strategy of appeasement with BLM never works, because there's never any sufficient concession you can make to satisfy them.
It's kind of like these Black Lives Matter sign in your window. It's kind of like Passover. When the Jews painted the blood of the last sacrificed lamb over their door. Pass by us, see, Black Lives Matter. Go burn and kill the people in the next house. The hand of death, or hand of God, or hand of death passes over your house but sees the blood on the door or the Black Lives Matter sign on the window.
That's what I heard is that like if you go to a city like if you go to a city like Portland or Seattle, all the storefronts have like anti-Trump propaganda in the front windows. They're just telling them, please don't burn down our store. Well, when the crap hits the fan, please don't burn us down. But yeah, like my sister, I have a sister who lives in Portland, and she took a photograph of herself with her husband in front of a storefront, and on the window of the store it says "Eat the Rich." It's like, okay, well, hey, face your tax base over the tax.
After you've eaten all the rich, there won't be anything left to eat.
Yeah, well, where's your tax money coming from? Yeah.
Yeah, was it Ocasio-Cortez said the other day? Billionaires need the people, the workers, and the workers don't need the billionaires. Oh, yes, right. They're going to be working just on what? Picking up twigs? You get rid of the billionaires and their companies and the jobs? Yes, they're going to be picking up twigs and pebbles by the ocean.
Yeah. Well, you chased Amazon out of New York.
Yeah, brilliant. But you know what? That's probably the best move, though the right move, because New York City is now like your papers, please. You have to show where you've been. You have to be escorted to Warren. I told you Warren Wilhelm. His name is Warren Wilhelm. He's a Nazi. I've told you this. I've told everyone before. He was a Nazi. Yes. He's doing Nazi things. Gestapo actions. He's gone full Gestapo.
They really have.
He tried.
And Whitmer. You look at Whitmer, and I mean here, and even in our own state, it's like they've just
and Biden won her over Kamala Harris. Yeah, because Biden's racist, right?
Just wait till we get the coronavirus vaccine, and then watch what happens. That'll be interesting because they're going to try to force everyone to take that probably.
Oh, I know. I hope I get it so I can just build up some herd immunity so I don't have to take the vaccine.
Yeah, I mean, but if you look at all the things that are going on with the hydrochlor. Anyway, never mind. Don't mind what I'm trying to say, but the hydroxychloroquine.
They say all around the world people are getting well. It's actually killing people,
and they're not allowing them to fill.
They're
here.
Right.
They're refusing to allow them to get the prescription. They're being complete fascist about it. Yeah.
Because Trump, that would make Trump right. So people have to die so Trump won't be right. People have to be poor so Trump won't. People's homes and businesses have to burn down so Trump won't be right.
Yeah, how are they going to eat? How are they going to pay their bills? And they just don't seem to care about that at all. I mean, it's like I said, it's a fascist world where they live in a governor's mansion. They have their food, they have their paychecks, so they're fine. But everyone else just has to eat dirt, I guess. So. It's the very definition of fascism.
Yeah.
And we've lost Rob again.
Yeah, where did he go?
He said,
he went to the bathroom.
He said, "I am too beautiful, and the world cannot see me now." With my golden locks of hair.
Probably.
See, and then I start talking about it.
Did you hear what he said about you?
I heard you put on your jammies. Is that what you did?
No, I put on my leather jacket again.
Oh, I see.
I just started getting a little chilly. Yeah.
Yeah, we start talking about the Elvis comeback special, and then what happens? You put on your jammy jacket there.
Yeah. You won't take the shirt off.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
My guts do you have?
No, because
I put my crown on. I put my crown on. Why
can't
you?
I feel like all I've got is the beard, man. I'm working this
and I don't drink alcohol either. I put my crown on. You see this? I did this without alcohol or drugs.
See, we're crazy. We don't need outside assistance. We're already insane.
She is disgusted by me drinking a little whiskey. No, me put it on the leather jacket. I'll become sick.
Bottles going up in the air.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, she was just saying that you needed some alcohol assistance while you're doing this.
Oh, well,
no, you don't need alcohol. Don't drink alcohol. I bought my first time in 5 months. I bought 2 days ago. I bought a bottle of wine, red wine. Yeah, I haven't finished it yet. But boy, it does help you sleep. It really does. It relaxes you.
Yes, if consumed in the right kind of quantities, alcohol is a miracle. Just can't.
Yeah, and you just don't drink too much of it, and it actually can help you fall asleep.
Yeah, don't get crazy. Don't
while
stand
your house
out,
is burning,
naked.
See all this noise.
Put everything under that. You're good. Don't worry about it.
God, we need to pray really bad. So is Elvis dead yet? I don't think Elvis wasn't dead at 12:07 at night yet. And of course, Tennessee is like an hour behind us. I think he died at some time in the morning. I don't know if it was 2 or 3 or 4. I think it was like 4 in the morning, Tennessee time. So as this moment, can we like meditate and try to like turn back time? Oh, that's Cher. Turn back time.
I could turn back time.
And stop Elvis from dying.
This is like beyond terrifying. And that's somebody else who's never aged since the 70s. So she obviously is in touch with a really good plastic surgeon.
She did turn back time. She literally turned back time.
She can't move her face. She uses so much.
That's my point, though. Yeah, she's almost like a mannequin that's still. I mean,
no, she's good for still shots. She's really good for still shots. Stay still, Cher.
Well, you see like Jennifer Lopez, and she's always like, so I think she's figured out the key to aging
different, doesn't she? When they start doing, they start doing that stuff like really early. Like Nicole Kidman, right after she did Moulin Rouge, she was Botoxing up, and she's like, "You look fine. You're not old yet."
Yeah.
I mean, and then it's like all of a sudden she's got her eyebrows are like bat eyebrows because they over Botoxed her forehead, because a big forehead makes you, psychologically, they say men go after women with big foreheads, long hair, big boobs, and big butts because they're actually looking for a woman who can produce lots of children. And something about the big forehead that denotes youth.
You had Rob at big boobs.
She had her forehead pumped with Botox, and she had these bad eyebrows. They were like going like a V. It was like, why? It's like she was like 31 or something like that. It's like, you're not old yet. This is not Botox.
It begs $1 million question. Would Elvis have ever gotten plastic surgery?
I think he did have a little touch on his eyes, the corner of his eyes, but he was that the whole whatever was killing him fast, and he was losing his looks went down really fast. And I mean, he died. It's very, very quickly, far quicker than he should have. It doesn't. That's why I think somebody had a hand in it. It does. People take drugs for years and years and years and years, and he was beautiful right through 73. He did Aloha from Hawaii, and he was still good. It was 2 years before he died.
And that's the Blue album, the one that was broadcast around the world, I think.
Yeah, that particular that was a fundraiser for somebody who in Hawaii that died of cancer, and that particular concert was the first concert that was satellite concert around the world, and there were no ticket prices. If you had a penny and that's all you had, because it was a fundraiser, you could have paid a penny to see Elvis. You could have paid any amount that you could pay. Elvis let you come in to see him. And he paid the band. He paid for his own expenses, and all the money went to the Cancer Foundation. And I've never heard of a concert where you can decide what you want to pay or pay nothing. He let you come in. That's the way.
Kind of like the downloads nowadays.
What?
Kind of like the downloads nowadays. Pay a penny or pay whatever you think it's worth. The kids always pay like free. So.
There you go, free to go. But that was nice. Most people don't know that. And the cape he threw out to the audience. First, they made a cape that went all the way to the floor. It was too heavy. See, that high collar thing was the invention of the designer.
Moody.
They wanted to design clothes for Elvis that looked like you imagine backwards to the kings.
Well, it was
Europe with the high collars and the capes. And so they made a shorter cape because the other one was too heavy. They still have the other one. He threw the short cape out into the audience. But those high collars, and then the way the sleeves were, kind of like you think back to the kings and the way they used to dress. It was a composite between 70s, what would work best for him on stage because he did the karate move. So his like a shirt wouldn't come out of his pants. So that he had the suit, the jumpsuits, and even whatchamacallit, Mick Jagger started wearing those too. Donny Osmond, for God's sakes, wore them. Everybody was wearing those jumpsuits. But the thing
like I said, it was the era of capes,
and the way the cuffs were reminiscent of like the way the kings dressed, like 18th century, something like that. 16th, 18th century, something like that. That's what it was patterned after. I would say 17th or 18th century, something like that. Because they wanted to give the look that he was the king. So he actually had that style designed. He wasn't his idea, but they designed it for him. So we have to end the stream with Elvis, because this is all about Elvis and Elvis dying. And another interesting story by Larry Geller. Now, of course, I don't know if this is true or not. He wrote it in his book. He went on Larry King and talked about it. And whoever talks to Larry King is honest. And so Larry Geller was Elvis's barber. And Elvis actually went white. His hair went white. That's where he was dyeing it black. It went white early. Some people, I don't know, some people turn white. I dated this guy. He was younger than I was. Oh, and he was, I forget, in his 30s. And he was like, and his hair went all white, and his eyebrows were white. And he would dye his hair brown, and his eyebrows were white. It's really weird. Oh, he's in his like early 30s. And I think I was older than, no, we know, maybe I was older. But he looked really old. And Elvis had the same problem too. His hair went white. And so he had to, a shock of white came out when he was lying in the coffin, and he got shoe polish, and he put shoe polish on it. But he said that Elvis would ask him, Larry Geller was very spiritual, and Elvis wanted to know how everybody in the world came to God. And he read books. He read 10,000 books, over 10,000 books on religions of the world, how everybody came. And he had a photographic memory. And Larry Geller, because he couldn't go to the shops himself and get these books, so Larry Geller would buy him 10 books at a time, and Elvis would read very fast and just take it all in. One of the books that night was called The Scientific Search for the Face of God. It was about the Shroud of Turin. He had to read that book. He said, he goes, Larry, I want to see that. He goes, hey, it's late. We've been playing racquetball, Elvis. It's really like, it's almost 4 a.m. And come on, I'll give you, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll give you the books tomorrow. He goes, no, man, no. I got to read that book tonight. I got to read that book tonight. And Larry Geller said, because Elvis couldn't go to the barbershop. Obviously, he couldn't go out to the barbershop. So Larry would do his hair. He had a barber chair in his bathroom. And he also had a statue of Jesus Christ, the Sacred Heart of Jesus, which is a Catholic thing. We Catholics, like, I don't know, that it appeared to, it was a French nun, I forget her name, showing his Sacred Heart. And he had a statue next to his bed of the Jesus with the Sacred Heart showing. So when he went to bed at night, the last thing he saw was Jesus. When he woke up in the morning, the first thing he saw was Jesus. So just in case he died in the night, he will always have Jesus on his mind. So he went to the bathroom, but Larry said that there's a barber chair in his bathroom. And what he would do is, because he was awake all night, because he would do the concerts all night, he pretty much slept all day. That's the way, and that's why the girlfriends, they couldn't handle awake all night, sleeping all day. They couldn't handle it. So he would go into the bathroom and he would read, which is funny because it's the same thing I used to do in California about God. I would read books about God, about mysticism. And so he was apparently fell on the floor with that book in his hand, The Scientific Search for the Face of God. He wanted to see the face of God so badly that he did. It's like, I wonder if it's a true story. I don't know why he would make it up, but it's a very nice note to end on.
Yes.
It is. It's a beautiful story. I mean, I think he lived his whole life, regardless of what people say about him. That's one thing I do believe, is that he lived his whole life in search, that he was a searcher, and that he was a spiritual Renaissance man, that he truly wanted to come at all aspects of belief and understand like why people believe what they believe, and but he never wavered in what he believed about the Lord. He was always fervent about that, because that was his basis. That's the only thing he had after his mom left was God. And I think he took that seriously. I really do feel that, and all of us lapse from time to time. But I think Elvis, he that was his faith was his rock.
Yeah, after the concerts, they would go. They would the entire band and the backup singers would sing gospel for hours. That's all Elvis wanted to do after a concert is sing gospel for hours. And they said that Sammy Davis Jr. and Muhammad Ali converted to Islam, of course, and Sammy Davis Jr. converted to Judaism and Satanism. And Elvis would make them wait and listen to these gospel songs. He wanted them to hear gospel songs on purpose.
Yeah.
But they loved him so much. They were all really good friends, but he made them listen to gospel songs all night long. And he was used to singing those revival meetings. That's his soul. That's his bedrock of his childhood. Every single night going to tent revival meetings, singing and singing and singing about Jesus and calling the Holy Spirit. That's all he wants. That's all he ever wanted in life. And that's all he wanted was to sing gospel music. If he couldn't act, and Colonel Parker didn't let him do that either. So maybe I'd like to think he was still alive, and maybe he's caught this live stream. Oh, I should have flowers. I feel like Miss America. My
the
model
parade wave. Hello, little plebes.
Okay,
I am passing
Mr.
by you.
America.
You will never have such beauty and grace in your life. May you be trod underfoot under our carriage as we pass you by.
What to do with Miss
Rob's
America?
getting drunk for us.
what?
If
I said
Elvis,
if Rob's getting drunk for us.
Oh, he is.
I'm
Yeah.
drinking La Croix, okay?
Look what?
Next time we shouldn't allow. I shouldn't allow you to drink unless you send me the liquor first. So
I'm drinking La Croix.
Yeah,
when you're drinking, this is not fair.
yeah.
I'm
She should get to
drinking.
taste it
Who
first.
thinks that this is fair? I'm oppressed.
Do I need to say
She's
this
an
with-
oppressed queen, by the way. So
My rhinestone tiara, right?
I don't get
I'm
the
oppressed.
sign language
I don't
this.
have diamonds. I have only rhinestones. This is unacceptable.
I'm drinking La Croix.
Oh,
Le Croix means the chicken, right?
Yes, I think it's French.
chicken.
So is that chicken juice?
Yeah, chicken liquor.
Fermented chicken juice.
Rob the chicken liquor. We're just giving you a hard time because we love you. That's the only reason.
Well, my nickname in the comments is Vanilla. That's stuck. Yeah, they're saying Vanilla is poppier than usual.
Wow. There's a lot of love out there.
So what time did Elvis die? Supposedly.
I would say maybe about 5 or 6 in the morning, something like that.
Oh, I thought we were going to have a moment of silence. When
We should have a moment of silence.
Well, I was thinking at 5. Yeah, we have to keep it going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little late
Elvis
for
would
me.
probably want us to read something out of the Bible, the 2011 Bible. That was what happened to this thing here. Look at it's got a jump. This was printed the year that Kate Middleton, the princess, married the prince in 2011.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that was Middleton,
400th anniversary of the King James Bible. And I
I
got
like that joke in Ninja Turtles where they say, is that a Jose Canseco bat? How much did you pay for this?
What could we read?
Midge. I think they call her Midge. Kate.
What would
Right
be
now,
a
there's probably British people out there getting ready to kill me. I'll be quiet.
read?
British folk, excuse me.
Something out of John. How good.
Apparently, someone's dog is deciding what we're gonna.
That's Teddy Bear. Oh, Teddy Bear. That's an Elvis song. Why did this
Teddy
get
Bear.
beat up? What
I just wanna be your little teddy bear.
Dang, Rob, you get liquored up, you get brave.
I'm loopy on La Croix.
Oh, really? Like, wow. There's chicken juice in here.
I have limoncello in the fridge.
Chicken drip.
I swear to if this wasn't like I would play some Elvis gospel music, but they would just take it down.
Yeah.
No. I mean, there's something Elvis's gospel music. We haven't touched on that too, but when he sang a gospel song, you've never heard anyone sing a gospel song like that. They say he arranged all his music. He didn't just walk in and somebody else arranged. He arranged all his music. And the way he did it, they say is perfect. It's exactly the way those songs are supposed to be sung. But his voice sounded like almost like he was a different person. You know, and everything was finished. You know, there wasn't a note that wasn't finished. There wasn't a word or a sentence that wasn't sung with the heart. Somehow there was like he was on a different level when he was singing gospel music. You know, I think people who listen to rock and roll and go, my God, what is? And it's so they say. Singing teachers have said he sounds so relaxed. It's so effortless, and it's coming from within, and it's just so relaxed. It's like he's not even using a muscle, yet it's so perfect. There's something really different when he got into that gospel mode, and I wish I could play an example.
So if you can name, like, for myself and the viewers, like 3 truly great Elvis gospel songs, what would you recommend?
How great thou art.
I come to the garden alone. In the garden, somebody bigger than you and I. Without him, I could do nothing. Without him, I'd surely fail. Without him, life would be worthless. But with Jesus, thank God I'm saved. Oh, Jesus, do you know him today? Please don't turn him away. Oh, Jesus, my Jesus, without him, how lost I would be. Yeah. I think I would come home and I bought, it was like a double CD disc. It was called Amazing Grace, but it was all his gospel music. And I would put it on and then I would sit in the chair and I would just fall asleep listening to his music. It just made me relax. I would just become peaceful. Everything was gone. Every worry was gone. And when I played music, usually back then I had a dog named Cho-Cho. He was a little Shih Tzu, the cutest Shih Tzu in life. And certain music would agitate him. Even Jesus Christ Superstar, he would be kind of agitated. When I put Elvis on, and I put Elvis on the TV, Cho-Cho would lie down right in the center. And he'd sit there and watch Elvis. Then he'd slowly lie down. And then he'd fall asleep just listening to Elvis between the 2 speakers on each side. And when I played gospel music, it did the same thing. It gave him peace. I mean, Elvis gave him like that effect on an animal. This is he doesn't know what he's singing, but the effect that his voice had on that animal, I thought was really, and I go, I should have named you Elvis instead of Cho-Cho. Cho-Cho means butterfly in Japanese. I should have. It was Elvis. Oh, his best Shih Tzu that ever lived, honest to God. But yeah, there's something about his God. Just sit yourself in a rocking chair or a soft rocking chair, turn on Elvis's gospel music, and you will be before you know it, you'll be sleeping, and every sorrow you have, everything you're worried about will be gone. You just forget it. and you just fall asleep. And I would remember sinking deeper into the chair, and my head would fall to the side, and I would just be asleep. And I go, there is no music and no singer. I don't care how good they are, not even Patsy Cline. I listen to a lot of Patsy Cline. Nobody did that to me, but Elvis singing about Jesus.
Mm.
You know, only that's, I thought that's really it. And I didn't say, oh, this is Elvis and he's the king and he's the, you know, it just happened. It's just something that happened. And every sorrow was gone, every fear was gone, all the anxiety. So like, you don't bother taking those pills for depression and anxiety. Just listen to, hey, you stop that drinking with the turkey and the quaw. You put on Elvis, get yourself a nice comfy
Put down
chair,
the chicken juice, son.
and then have somebody torture you with a pointy pillows. The comfy chair. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
I never thought I would face an intervention for my addiction to sparkling water.
Is Spanish Inquisition.
Oh, sparkling water. Oh, you had us fooled. You
went
fooled.
all artificial on us. Thank you.
You fooled me. Oh my God. Oh. Well, but still, next time, Rob, you feel, and I should do it too, but I don't want to sit in those chairs anymore. It's just
lay
like
on the floor, Rob. Lay on the
floor.
floor.
They're
Put on Elvis.
too old to sit.
Go to your Elvis place.
But it just sit in a comfy chair and play Elvis gospel music. Make sure it plays. It's all Elvis gospel music. And I swear by the fourth song at least, fourth or fifth song, you'll be in such a deep sleep, and every worry and every sorrow and every care and everything will be gone. Providing Antifa and BLM are not in your town, when you wake up, everything will still be there. Everything will be gone. but the the pain inside you, will be gone. And the worry or whatever. I swear to God, it works. I swear to God, it'll work for you too.
He can't help but read the comments. He's all
reading the comment. Okay. You know your Elvis words too without him. Like the show I watched. Oh. Yeah, I didn't. We had the live stream tonight, and we didn't. Nobody had. I told Rob to put it on, and he didn't. I didn't see the live stream tonight, so they did. They did play that, And speaking of his grandson, and growing up in Scientology, and then blowing his brains out, can you imagine how different it would be if he had his grandfather's belief? I mean, Elvis died probably of being overly prescribed medication.
It's beyond sad.
He didn't kill himself. He didn't take a gun and shoot himself. And that's all he wanted was God. All he wanted was to see Jesus. That's all. That's all that man wanted in life, and see his mother again. It just reminded me of something, that the song Unchained Melody. And people were listening to Bobby Hatfield's version of it. And Elvis didn't do a good job as Bobby Hatfield. I said, Elvis was dying, and he sat at the piano, and that was the last song he ever sang. And he pushed that song out, and you could tell there was sorrow and pain in there. Oh, my love, my darling, I hunger for your touch a long, lonely time. And time goes by so slowly, and time can do so much. Are you still mine? I need your love. I need your love. Please. Was it send your love? Please bring your love to me. He was calling out to his mother. I've I've hungered for your touch a long, lonely time, and time goes by so slowly. And time
Yeah,
can
it's ironic that the two relationships that he
you know,
craved the most were the two that he first had, his God and his mom.
yeah. And I think that's the last song he sung. And to me, Bobby Hatfield, it was perfection, obviously, but Elvis was dying when he sang it. And he was singing it, not trying to make it sound sad. He was truly singing it with his heart and soul and everything he had inside him. Picking that as his last song, that I think is really unusual. But I said he's singing to his mother, and that's what makes it's impossible to hear because it's so painful. But it makes it the best version because it's sung with heart and soul, and the man was about to die. You know.
So this is on record.
Yeah, you can see him. It's in concert.
Okay.
He sang it. That's the last song he ever sang in his concert. That's it. He usually doesn't sit at the piano when he in concert. He never does. This time he sat at the piano and accompanied himself. Not the orchestra. He accompanied himself. It was very odd. It was like the orchestra did not, the band, nobody expected him to do this. And he just sang his heart out as if he couldn't push it out any harder than he did. And you can hear his heart singing and how painful it was to get those words out. And that was it. The man was done. You know, and it's his mother. It's his mother. He's waited for her a long, lonely time for her touch. I need your love. I need your love. And the man, poor man, so long just wanted to be loved. And he couldn't marry Anne Margaret because he promised Priscilla's parents, that he'd marry her to do the right thing. But the true woman was Anne Margaret he should have married. How sad. This talented man couldn't become a great actor, and he was a great actor, and he couldn't do it. And his manager stole half of everything he earned. How used. And then his poor grandson. He couldn't be alive to save the life of his grandson and to give him Jesus, to give him God.
Yeah.
No, he got Dianetic. He got Xenu. Was it the planet Xenu or the alien's name was Xenu or something like that? Of course, there's nothing to hope for. That religion gives you nothing to hope for. Xenu. No wonder I'd blow my brains out too with the riots in the streets and the mass and being white, causing your grandfather stole black music. Imagine how many times that kid heard that from probably BLM. He stole black, and the money you have today is because your grandfather stole black music. And he couldn't take it anymore. And he couldn't take it. Little do they realize, his grandfather was Melungian and knew discrimination, knew racism, really knew it. They don't. How sad. And it's like Priscilla and Lisa Marie. Well, Priscilla, because she's the adult. Lisa Marie was a child that grew up, but how sad. Well, he's in the arms of Elvis and Jesus. You know.
Yeah.
At least,
he's finally reunited with his real family, and the love that he's going to experience is eternal.
Yeah. Much better place than we are now.
As is
better thing. What was that?
As is Elvis with his mother, yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we love you. When I was a kid, I used to have dreams that Elvis used to come. Didn't know anything about his music. Certainly wasn't sexually attracted to him as a little kid. I used to have dreams that he'd come and sit on my bed and talk to me about God. talked to me about all these things about God. And then I got into studying the world's religions. And I didn't realize, then I found out later that that's what Elvis did.
Yes.
He wanted to know how everybody came to God. And that's what I was searching for. I go, was it a dream? How unusual. I mean, just that it is unusual. We would say in Italian, it's a coincidenza, you know?
It's Mario.
Yeah. Okay.
You are canceled. You are canceled, my friend.
Who's canceled? Me?
I know David. He made an Italianophobic joke. Yes.
Oh, he did.
I was talking about the Mario from Mario, the video game, sir.
Italian American stereotype.
Mario. He's a plumber. That's an honest trade. So.
Well, nice to meet you, David, and your mother. I was hoping your mother would come on and say a few words about Elvis, or how much she loved Elvis and stuff.
Yeah. Well, next time I do something like this, I'll make sure to bring her to my house so she could do that too.
Oh, I
Although I look like I live in my
yeah,
basement.
because you said your mother loved Elvis.
Oh no, she was definitely a huge Elvis fan. She's still a huge Elvis fan, so she loves Elvis.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, I was looking forward to meeting her.
Oh, yeah. Well, one day, hopefully.
And you're going to regret this for the rest of your life.
No, I roll with Rob, so I'm used to like craziness. I feel sorry for all the people that had to put up with me tonight. I'm sorry. I apologize to you both.
I know.
To all the people watching, I'm so sorry. So sorry. Yeah. So.
Italians aren't a protected class. They were lynched in the South. They were considered black. Southern Italians, Robert Fried saying, Italians aren't a protected class. Southern Italians were considered black in the South, and they were lynched. And the largest mass lynching in America occurred in New Orleans, where they accused the Italians of killing the police chief. They didn't do it, but they rounded up a bunch of Italians. They killed them. They ripped their bodies apart, and then they hung pieces of their bodies all over the city. And then the people of New Orleans took the body parts home as souvenirs. And that's the reason why we have Columbus Day. That's the reason why because of the Italian American, the contribution of the Italians to America, because of that lynching, they gave us Columbus Day.
I think
that's the reason why. And it wasn't until 2019 did the people of New Orleans apologize to the Italians for doing that. How about that? If you go long enough, we were considered black. We were called coons in the South. We're half black.
I think when you were describing Elvis's grandson in his grandfather's arm, I think that would have been the best time to end the stream.
Well, Robert, you blame Robert.
It's the tiara, man. It made her power hungry. She just
Robert said Italians aren't protected class. I read the chat. Blame Robert. Okay, we can go back to thinking about Elvis and do you want to go to bed crying or do you want to have a laugh? I think it's a sad event. It's a sad event, but it made it funny because I made it Italian. You make it Italian.
I get very confused with
what
Robert.
Everybody's favorite Elvis song.
Oh no! He said an Italian slur. He said something about Italians. Put Italians down.
Yeah, it
was you who changed the conversation. No, it was him. He did the Italian a slur. And then you corrected him, and then I had to tell you about the history of the Italian.
I was doing Mario from the video game. Mario from 64, the video game. Somebody out there knows what I'm talking about. Somebody.
By the way, I just want to say, when you watch most of Felina's videos, she does like the ASMR. She speaks with a very gentle, whispery voice. But you get her on the right topic, and she's northeast. There's no mistaking what part of the country she lives in when she gets on the right topic. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, yes, my name is Wicked Felina. I'm going to talk about religion. Yes. But you get her on the right subject. Yeah, I don't think it's.
You raise the R.
Well, one little kiss from Felina. Goodbye.
Bye.
Good night,
Thanks for
everyone.
letting me be a
God
part of
bless you. God bless everyone in the chat.
Yes. God
All
bless
right.
us one and all.
That's right. Tiny Tim too.
Night.
Good night. And so I end broadcast by doing this, right? I hit this right here.
Yeah, well, yeah, you have to just don't eject yourself from the studio and broadcast. Yeah.